In the dusty corridors of museums around the world, behind glass cases and protective barriers, lie objects that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. These aren't the typical pottery shards or ancient coins that fill archaeology textbooks. These are the anomalies, the outliers, the discoveries that make seasoned archaeologists scratch their heads and wonder if perhaps our understanding of the past is far more incomplete than we ever imagined. For over 2 centuries, archaeology has transformed from treasure hunting into a rigorous science, methodically piecing together the puzzle of human civilization. We've learned to read the stories written in stone, to decode the messages left in bones, and to interpret the silent testimony of buried cities. Yet for every question archaeology answers, it seems to uncover 10 more mysteries that defy conventional explanation. Consider the precision-cut stones of Sacsayhuamán in Peru, fitted together so perfectly that not even a knife blade can slip between them, achieved without mortar or modern machinery. Think about the advanced metallurgy of the Viking Ulfberht swords, forged with techniques that supposedly wouldn't be rediscovered for centuries. Contemplate the hundreds of human skeletons scattered around a remote Himalayan lake, their presence unexplained by any known historical event. These discoveries force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our timeline of human achievement might be fundamentally flawed. The neat progression from primitive hunter-gatherers to sophisticated civilizations that we teach in schools may be missing crucial chapters, entire civilizations that rose and fell without leaving clear records of their existence. Modern archaeology operates on the principle of uniformitarianism, the idea that the processes and capabilities we observe today are the same as those that operated in the past. This framework has served us well, allowing us to reconstruct ancient climates, understand migration patterns, and piece together the rise and fall of empires. But what happens when we encounter evidence that doesn't fit this model? The scientific community often finds itself in a delicate position when faced with anomalous discoveries. On one hand, rigorous skepticism is essential to maintain credibility and prevent the field from descending into wild speculation. On the other hand, dismissing inconvenient evidence simply because it doesn't fit existing paradigms can blind us to revolutionary discoveries. This tension is particularly acute when dealing with artifacts that suggest technological capabilities beyond what we believe ancient peoples possessed. The famous Antikythera mechanism, for instance, was initially dismissed as a modern contamination because its sophisticated gear system seemed impossible for ancient Greeks to have created. Only decades of painstaking research revealed it to be a genuine ancient computer, forcing historians to revise their understanding of Hellenistic technological achievement. But the Antikythera mechanism represents just the tip of the iceberg. Scattered across the globe are hundreds of archaeological sites and artifacts that continue to puzzle researchers, each one a potential key to unlocking hidden chapters of human history. What makes these archaeological enigmas particularly intriguing is their global distribution. From the windswept plateaus of Tibet to the dense rainforests of Brazil, from the frigid waters of the Baltic Sea to the scorching deserts of Egypt, mysterious artifacts and structures appear on every continent. This worldwide pattern suggests that whatever created these anomalies was not limited to a single culture or time period. Some patterns emerge when we examine these mysteries collectively. Many involve stonework of extraordinary precision, achieved without apparent access to modern tools or techniques. Others demonstrate metallurgical knowledge that seems centuries ahead of its time. Still others suggest astronomical understanding far beyond what traditional timelines would predict. The geographic spread also raises fascinating questions about ancient connectivity. How did similar construction techniques appear in locations separated by thousands of miles and seemingly insurmountable barriers? Why do we find comparable artifacts in civilizations that supposedly had no contact with each other? These questions become even more perplexing when we consider that many of these sites predate the conventional dates for transoceanic travel. One of the most persistent challenges in studying archaeological mysteries is establishing accurate dates and contexts. Traditional dating methods like radiocarbon dating work well for organic materials, but are useless for stone structures or metal artifacts. Stratigraphic dating, determining age based on the geological layer in which an artifact is found, can be misleading if the artifact was moved or if the site was disturbed by later activity. These limitations become particularly problematic when dealing with artifacts that seem out of place in time. The famous London hammer, a metal hammer allegedly found embedded in rock formations supposedly millions of years old, illustrates this challenge. Skeptics point out that the hammer could have become mineralized through relatively recent natural processes, while proponents argue that conventional explanations fail to account for the artifact's apparent antiquity. Similar controversies surround many of the discoveries we'll explore. The Klerksdorp spheres, nearly perfect metallic spheres found in South African rock formations, are dated by geological context to be billions of years old. Yet their artificial appearance suggests intelligent manufacture. Conventional science explains them as natural formations created by geological processes, but this explanation satisfies no one completely. Behind every archaeological mystery lies a human story, not just of the ancient peoples who created these puzzles, but of the modern researchers who discovered and attempted to interpret them. The history of archaeology is littered with examples of brilliant insights and spectacular mistakes, often influenced as much by the cultural biases and personal motivations of the investigators as by the evidence itself. Early archaeologists like Heinrich Schliemann, who excavated Troy, were driven by romantic notions of rediscovering legendary civilizations. Their methods were often crude by modern standards, and their interpretations were colored by 19th century European perspectives on ancient peoples. Yet their passion and dedication uncovered treasures that continue to inspire and perplex us today. Modern archaeology has become far more sophisticated, employing advanced technologies like ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and DNA analysis. These tools have revealed previously invisible structures, identified the genetic origins of ancient populations, and provided unprecedented detail about how our ancestors lived. Yet they've also uncovered new mysteries that are every bit as perplexing as those that confronted earlier generations of archaeologists. The tension between scientific rigor and open-minded inquiry remains constant. Mainstream archaeology must maintain strict standards to preserve its credibility, but this conservatism can sometimes prevent serious consideration of genuinely anomalous evidence. Alternative researchers may be more willing to consider radical interpretations, but they often lack the training and resources necessary for rigorous investigation. Advances in technology continue to revolutionize our understanding of the past, but they also reveal new puzzles that previous generations couldn't have imagined. High-resolution satellite imagery has uncovered vast geometric patterns carved into the landscape of the Amazon basin, visible only from the air and apparently serving no practical purpose. LiDAR scanning has revealed the true extent of Mayan civilization, showing that the jungle conceals far more extensive urban centers than anyone suspected. Ground-penetrating radar has detected massive voids beneath the Egyptian pyramids, suggesting the existence of previously unknown chambers. Advanced metallurgical analysis has revealed that some ancient artifacts were manufactured using techniques that remain mysterious even today. DNA analysis has shown that ancient human populations were far more diverse and mobile than traditional models suggested. Each technological advance promises to solve old mysteries while simultaneously revealing new ones. The more we learn about the past, the more we realize how much we don't know. This paradox keeps archaeology vibrant and exciting, but it also means that today's accepted theories may become tomorrow's discarded hypotheses. One of the most challenging aspects of studying archaeological mysteries is navigating the boundary between legitimate scientific inquiry and unfounded speculation. The same evidence that inspires careful research can also fuel wild theories about ancient aliens, lost super-civilizations, or forgotten technologies. This proliferation of alternative theories creates a complex environment for serious researchers. On one hand, some unconventional ideas have eventually proven correct. The existence of Troy, once dismissed as mythical, was vindicated by archaeological discovery. Continental drift, now accepted as geological fact, was initially ridiculed by the scientific establishment. These examples remind us that scientific consensus can be wrong. On the other hand, the popularity of sensationalized interpretations can make it difficult for the public to distinguish between legitimate mysteries and manufactured controversies. Television shows and internet videos often present speculative theories as established fact, creating confusion about what evidence actually supports and what remains purely hypothetical. The responsible approach requires maintaining a delicate balance, remaining open to genuinely anomalous evidence while applying rigorous critical thinking to evaluate extraordinary claims. This means neither dismissing unusual discoveries simply because they don't fit current paradigms, nor accepting radical interpretations without sufficient evidence. Archaeological mysteries don't exist in a vacuum. They influence and are influenced by broader cultural currents. Ancient astronaut theories, for instance, gained popularity during the space age when the possibility of extraterrestrial contact seemed more plausible than ever before. Lost civilization theories often reflect contemporary anxieties about technological progress and environmental destruction. These cultural dimensions add another layer of complexity to interpreting archaeological evidence. Researchers must consider not only what the physical evidence suggests, but also how their own cultural background might be shaping their interpretations. The history of archaeology is full of examples where investigators found exactly what they expected to find, often by unconsciously selecting evidence that supported their preconceptions while ignoring data that contradicted them. Indigenous perspectives add yet another dimension to these considerations. Many archaeological sites that Western science considers mysterious are associated with oral traditions that provide alternative explanations. These traditional accounts are often dismissed as mythology, but they sometimes contain accurate historical information that has been preserved for thousands of years. The challenge for modern archaeology is learning to balance respect for indigenous knowledge with scientific rigor, incorporating traditional perspectives while maintaining critical evaluation of all claims, whether they come from academic researchers or traditional sources. The 50 mysteries we'll explore in this investigation represent a carefully selected cross-section of the most compelling archaeological enigmas from around the world. They've been chosen not because they necessarily prove any particular theory about the past, but because they illustrate the gaps in our current understanding of human history. Some of these mysteries involve structures of impossible precision, built with techniques that seem to exceed the capabilities of their supposed creators. Others feature artifacts that appear to be technological anachronisms, incorporating knowledge or materials that shouldn't have existed when they were made. Still others involve biological anomalies, human remains that don't fit established patterns of evolution and migration. Each mystery will be examined from multiple perspectives, considering both conventional explanations and alternative theories. We'll look at the evidence that supports different interpretations, the cultural context in which these discoveries were made, and the ongoing debates that surround them. Most importantly, we'll try to understand what these mysteries might tell us about the limitations of our current knowledge and the possibilities for future discoveries. As we embark on this journey through 50 of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries, it's worth reflecting on what these discoveries might mean for our understanding of human history. Each unexplained artifact or structure represents a potential window into forgotten chapters of the human story. They remind us that the past was far stranger and more complex than our textbooks suggest. At the same time, these mysteries highlight the fragility of historical knowledge. Much of what we think we know about the past is based on incomplete evidence, interpreted through the lens of contemporary assumptions and biases. New discoveries can overturn established theories overnight, forcing us to reconsider everything we thought we understood about ancient civilizations. This uncertainty can be unsettling, but it's also exciting. It means that the most important archaeological discovery in human history might be waiting just beneath the next shovelful of earth. It suggests that amateur researchers and indigenous communities might possess crucial pieces of the puzzle that professional archaeologists have overlooked. Most importantly, it reminds us that the human story is far from finished. We're still writing new chapters while simultaneously discovering lost pages from earlier volumes. As we examine these archaeological enigmas, we must also grapple with the limitations of the scientific method itself when applied to the distant past. Science excels at understanding repeatable phenomena under controlled conditions, but archaeological evidence often consists of unique, unrepeatable events that occurred under circumstances we can never fully recreate or understand. This creates inherent challenges for archaeological interpretation. We can analyze the chemical composition of an ancient bronze sword, but we can't interview its maker about their techniques and intentions. We can measure the precise angles of megalithic structures, but we can't observe the construction process that created them. We can study the skeletal remains of ancient peoples, but we can't directly access their thoughts, beliefs, and motivations. These limitations don't invalidate scientific approaches to archaeology, but they do require humility about what we can and cannot know with certainty. They also suggest that rigid adherence to current scientific paradigms might blind us to important evidence that doesn't fit established frameworks. The mysteries we'll explore often fall into these gaps. They present evidence that seems reliable but that can't be easily explained within current scientific understanding. Rather than dismissing this evidence or forcing it into inadequate explanatory frameworks, perhaps we should view it as an opportunity to expand our understanding of what's possible. As we stand on the threshold of exploring these 50 mysteries, it's worth considering how future developments might help resolve some of these ancient puzzles. Advances in dating techniques may provide more precise chronologies for controversial artifacts. Improved DNA analysis might reveal unexpected genetic connections between distant populations. New remote sensing technologies could uncover buried structures that have remained hidden for millennia. At the same time, climate change and human development are destroying archaeological sites faster than they can be properly investigated. Rising sea levels threaten coastal settlements that might hold keys to understanding ancient maritime cultures. Urban expansion bulldozes potential sites before they can be excavated. Political instability makes entire regions inaccessible to researchers. This urgency adds weight to our investigation. These mysteries aren't just academic curiosities. They're windows into human potential that might be closing forever. Each unexplored site that disappears takes with it irreplaceable information about our collective past. Each unpreserved artifact represents a lost opportunity to understand the full scope of human achievement and capability. The 50 mysteries that await us span continents and millennia, representing some of the most perplexing archaeological discoveries ever made. They include precision-engineered structures that seem to defy the technological capabilities of their time, artifacts that appear to be millions of years out of place, and human remains that don't fit established patterns of evolution and migration. Some of these mysteries have captured public imagination for decades, inspiring countless theories and debates. Others remain relatively unknown outside specialist circles, quietly challenging established historical timelines. All of them share one common characteristic: they resist easy explanation within current archaeological frameworks. As we begin this exploration, we'll maintain the perspective that mystery and uncertainty are not enemies of understanding, but rather signs that there's still much to discover about the human story. Each unexplained artifact reminds us that the past was stranger and more complex than we imagine. Each anomalous structure suggests that human capability and ingenuity may have expressed themselves in ways we're only beginning to appreciate. Our goal isn't to prove any particular theory about these mysteries, but rather to examine the evidence with open minds and critical thinking. Some may eventually be explained by conventional archaeology. Others might require us to expand our understanding of what ancient peoples could achieve. Still others might remain mysterious indefinitely, serving as permanent reminders of the limits of our knowledge. Whatever the ultimate explanations prove to be, these 50 mysteries offer us something precious. They remind us that the human story is far from complete and that the most exciting discoveries may still lie ahead. They challenge us to think beyond the boundaries of current knowledge while maintaining the rigorous standards necessary for genuine understanding. The journey ahead will take us to remote mountain peaks and ocean depths, to hidden valleys and desert plateaus, to forgotten caves and buried cities. We'll encounter evidence that seems to overturn everything we thought we knew about the past, and will grapple with questions that have puzzled researchers for generations. Most importantly, we'll remember that behind every mystery lies a human story, the story of ancient peoples whose achievements we're still trying to understand, and the story of modern researchers whose dedication and curiosity drive them to keep searching for answers. These stories remind us that archaeology is ultimately about understanding ourselves, where we came from, what we're capable of, and what we might yet become. The mysteries await. Let's begin our journey into the impossible past. Now that we've established the scope and significance of archaeological mysteries, let's begin our journey through 50 of the most perplexing discoveries ever made. We start with perhaps the most visually striking category of unexplained phenomena: ancient structures and megaliths that seem to defy the technological capabilities of their supposed creators. These monuments to human ambition and ingenuity dot the landscape of every continent, from the windswept highlands of Peru to the submerged coastlines of ancient Greece. What unites them is not just their impressive scale or artistic beauty, but but their ability to challenge our fundamental assumptions about what ancient civilizations could achieve. Each structure we'll explore represents a puzzle piece in the larger mystery of human technological development, suggesting that our ancestors may have possessed knowledge and capabilities that we're only beginning to appreciate. As we examine these 10 remarkable sites, we'll discover recurring themes that span cultures, continents, and millennia. The precision of stonework that modern technology struggles to replicate. The astronomical alignments that suggest sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. The massive scale of construction that would challenge contemporary engineering. Most intriguingly, the similar techniques and solutions that appear in civilizations separated by vast distances and supposedly insurmountable barriers. These patterns raise fundamental questions about the nature of ancient technological exchange, the true timeline of human achievement, and the possibility that we've overlooked entire chapters of our collective story. Let's begin our exploration with one of the most famous and controversial examples of impossible precision in ancient construction. 1. The Sacsayhuamán Walls. Location: Cusco, Peru. High in the Peruvian Andes, overlooking the ancient capital of Cusco, stands one of the most remarkable examples of stone masonry in human history. The fortress complex of Sacsayhuamán presents visitors with a puzzle that has confounded engineers, archaeologists, and historians for centuries. How did ancient builders achieve precision that modern technology can barely match, using tools that supposedly didn't exist in pre-Columbian America? The discovery of Sacsayhuamán as a significant archaeological site dates back to the Spanish conquest of the Inca Empire in the 16th century. Spanish chroniclers were immediately struck by the fortress's imposing presence and the impossible precision of its construction. Pedro Sarmiento de Gamboa, writing in 1572, described walls built with stones so perfectly fitted that a knife cannot be inserted into the joints. This description, repeated by numerous observers over the centuries, remains accurate today. What makes Sacsayhuamán truly extraordinary isn't just the size of its stones, some weighing over 200 tons, but the precision with which they've been cut and fitted. The massive limestone blocks interlock with each other in complex three-dimensional patterns, creating joints so tight that no mortar was necessary. After more than 500 years of earthquakes, storms, and human interference, these joints remain perfectly sealed. The unusual features that baffle modern experts go far beyond mere size and precision. Many of the stones have been carved with complex polygonal shapes that fit together like pieces of an impossibly complicated three-dimensional puzzle. Some blocks have as many as 12 sides, each surface cut at a different angle yet fitting perfectly against its neighbors. The mathematical precision required to achieve this level of accuracy staggers contemporary architects and engineers. Perhaps most mysteriously, many stones show evidence of vitrification, a glass-like transformation of the surface that typically occurs only under extreme heat. Some researchers have noted what appears to be evidence of melting and reshaping, as if the massive stones were somehow softened during construction. Conventional explanations struggle to account for how ancient builders could have generated the temperatures necessary for such effects. Mainstream archaeology attributes Sacsayhuamán to Inca construction techniques, suggesting that the builders used bronze tools, wooden levers, and rope systems to move and shape the massive stones. According to this theory, teams of workers spent decades carefully cutting each stone using harder stones as tools, then moving them into place using sophisticated but conventional methods. However, experimental archaeology has struggled to replicate even simple versions of Sacsayhuamán's precision using proposed Inca techniques. Modern attempts to cut similar stones using bronze tools have proven extremely time-consuming and have failed to achieve comparable precision. The mathematical complexity of the polygonal joints suggests a level of planning and spatial reasoning that challenges assumptions about ancient Andean capabilities. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the impossible precision. Some researchers suggest that the builders possessed advanced knowledge of stone-cutting techniques that have since been lost. Others point to the evidence of vitrification as proof that unknown thermal technologies were employed. More controversial theories propose that the construction represents evidence of advanced ancient civilizations or even extraterrestrial intervention. Recent geological analysis has added another layer to the mystery. Some researchers argue that certain aspects of Sacsayhuamán show evidence of extreme antiquity, predating the Inca Empire by thousands of years. If accurate, this would suggest that the fortress represents the remains of a much older civilization whose technological capabilities exceeded those of later inhabitants. The mystery of Sacsayhuamán endures because no proposed explanation adequately accounts for all the observed evidence. The precision of the stonework exceeds what Bronze Age technology should have been able to achieve. The mathematical complexity of the joints suggests sophisticated planning tools and techniques. The scale of the construction implies organizational capabilities and workforce management that challenge our understanding of ancient Andean society. Most significantly, attempts to replicate the construction using proposed ancient techniques have consistently failed to achieve comparable results. This suggests that crucial knowledge about the construction methods has been lost, leaving us with a monument whose very existence challenges our assumptions about the technological timeline of human civilization. 2. The Ram Setu, Adam's Bridge. Location: between India and Sri Lanka. Stretching across the shallow waters between Pamban Island in India and Mannar Island in Sri Lanka lies a chain of limestone shoals, coral reefs, and sandstone formations known locally as Ram Setu, or Adam's Bridge to colonial-era Europeans. This 30-kilometer formation has become one of the most controversial archaeological mysteries of the modern era, with evidence suggesting it may represent the remains of an artificial causeway constructed thousands of years ago. The formation first gained scientific attention in the early 19th century when British colonial surveys noted its unusual regularity and composition. Unlike typical geological formations in the region, Ram Setu consists of a remarkably straight line of coral and sandstone structures that maintain consistent depth and alignment across the entire span. Early geological surveys noted that the formation seemed to rest on a foundation of loose sand, rather than being rooted in bedrock as would be expected for a natural reef system. The controversy intensified in 2002 when NASA satellite imagery revealed the full extent and remarkable linearity of the formation. The images showed what appeared to be a clearly defined causeway stretching across the strait, with regular gaps that might once have been bridged. The precision of the alignment and the consistent elevation suggested artificial construction rather than natural formation. Archaeological investigation has revealed several features that challenge conventional explanations for Ram Setu's origin. Core samples taken from various points along the formation show a consistent pattern, a foundation of loose sand and shells topped by coral growth and limestone accumulation. This stratigraphy is unusual for natural coral reefs, which typically develop on solid bedrock foundations. The uniform depth of approximately 3 feet across most of the formation also differs from the varied topography typical of natural reef systems. Perhaps most intriguingly, radiocarbon dating of coral samples taken from different sections has yielded ages ranging from 4,000 to 7,000 years, with the oldest samples consistently found at the ends of the formation and progressively younger samples toward the center. This pattern suggests that the structure developed from both ends toward the middle, which would be consistent with artificial construction, but unusual for natural formation processes. The geological composition adds another layer to the mystery. Much of Ram Setu consists of sandstone blocks that don't match the local geology of either India or Sri Lanka. The source of these materials remains unknown, raising questions about how such large quantities of foreign stone came to be deposited in this specific pattern across the strait. Mainstream geological explanations propose that Ram Setu represents a natural formation created by longshore drift and coral growth over thousands of years. According to this theory, ocean currents gradually deposited sand and debris in a line across the strait, which then became colonized by coral polyps and eventually developed into the current formation. Supporters of this explanation point to similar formations elsewhere in the world created by natural processes. However, several aspects of Ram Setu challenge this conventional interpretation. The remarkable straightness and consistency of the formation differ significantly from the curved and irregular patterns typically created by longshore drift. The lack of a bedrock foundation contradicts standard coral reef development patterns. Most problematically, computer models of ocean currents in the region don't support the formation of such a regular linear structure through natural processes. Alternative theories suggest that Ram Setu represents the remains of an artificial causeway constructed by an advanced ancient civilization. Proponents of this theory point to the uniform depth, linear alignment, and unusual stratigraphy as evidence of deliberate construction. They argue that the causeway may have been built during a period of lower sea level, then partially submerged and colonized by marine life as ocean levels rose. The mystery is further complicated by cultural and historical evidence. Ancient Sanskrit texts, including the Ramayana, describe the construction of a bridge across the strait by Rama's army of allies. While these accounts are generally considered mythological, they provide detailed descriptions of construction techniques and materials that some researchers argue correspond surprisingly well with the physical evidence observed at Ram Setu. Recent archaeological surveys have identified what appear to be worked stone blocks at various points along the formation, though their artificial nature remains disputed. Some researchers claim these blocks show evidence of tool marks and deliberate shaping, while skeptics argue they represent natural weathering patterns or colonial-era construction debris. The Ram Setu mystery persists because neither natural nor artificial explanations fully account for all the observed evidence. Natural formation processes don't adequately explain the remarkable linearity and uniform depth of the structure. The unusual stratigraphy and foreign stone composition suggest influences beyond simple geological processes. Yet the scale of construction, implied by artificial theories, seems beyond the capabilities typically attributed to ancient civilizations in the region. Modern attempts to resolve the controversy through additional scientific investigation have been hampered by political and religious sensitivities surrounding the site. The formation holds deep cultural significance for millions of people, making objective scientific study challenging. This has allowed the mystery to persist, with Ram Setu remaining one of the most debated geological formations in the world. 3. The Archaean Ruins. Location: Chelyabinsk Oblast, Russia. In the vast steppes of southern Russia, approximately 600 kilometers south of Yekaterinburg, lies the remains of what may be one of the most sophisticated Bronze Age settlements ever discovered. Archaean, often called the Russian Stonehenge or Swastika City due to its distinctive circular design, presents archaeologists with evidence of advanced urban planning, sophisticated construction techniques, and astronomical knowledge that seems impossibly advanced for its supposed age of 4,000 years. The discovery of Archaean came about by pure chance in 1987, when Soviet archaeologists conducting a survey ahead of planned reservoir construction stumbled upon unusual circular patterns visible from aerial photographs. What they found would revolutionize understanding of Bronze Age civilization in the Eurasian steppes and challenge assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient nomadic peoples. Initial excavations revealed a remarkably sophisticated settlement, consisting of two concentric circular walls enclosing residential and industrial areas, arranged in precise geometric patterns. The outer wall measured approximately 160 meters in diameter, while the inner wall created a circle roughly 85 meters across. Between these walls ran a circular street, with radial streets extending inward like spokes of a wheel, creating a layout that wouldn't look out of place in modern urban planning textbooks. The construction techniques employed at Archaean demonstrate remarkable engineering sophistication. The walls were built using a complex method involving timber frameworks filled with earth and clay, creating structures that were both earthquake-resistant and capable of supporting multiple stories. The settlement included sophisticated drainage systems, underground storage facilities, and what appears to be an early form of central heating using a network of hearths connected by air channels. Perhaps most remarkably, the entire settlement appears to have been planned and constructed as a single project rather than growing organically over time. The mathematical precision of the layout, with its perfect circles and radial symmetry, suggests the use of advanced geometric principles and measuring tools. The orientation of the settlement and its various structures demonstrates clear astronomical alignments, indicating sophisticated knowledge of celestial movements. Archaeological investigation has revealed that Archaean was not merely a residential settlement, but a complex industrial center. Evidence suggests the inhabitants were skilled metallurgists who produced bronze tools and weapons of exceptionally high quality. Furnaces capable of reaching temperatures necessary for advanced metallurgy have been found throughout the settlement, along with extensive workshop areas and storage facilities for raw materials and finished products. The astronomical aspects of Archaean are particularly intriguing. The settlement's layout appears to incorporate multiple celestial alignments, with various structures oriented toward significant astronomical events such as solstices and equinoxes. Some researchers argue that the entire complex functioned as a massive astronomical observatory, allowing its inhabitants to track celestial cycles with remarkable precision. The artifacts recovered from Archaeum include sophisticated pottery, advanced bronze tools, and what appear to be measuring instruments of unknown purpose. The pottery shows evidence of advanced firing techniques and decorative methods that suggest a high level of artistic and technological development. The bronze work demonstrates metallurgical knowledge that rivals much later civilizations. Mainstream archaeology classifies Archaeum as a settlement of the Sintashta culture, a Bronze Age civilization that flourished in the region between 2100 and 1800 BCE. According to this interpretation, the site represents an exceptionally well-preserved example of advanced Bronze Age urban planning and construction techniques. The sophisticated layout and construction are attributed to the needs of a complex society engaged in metallurgy and trade. However, several aspects of Archaeum challenge conventional understanding of Bronze Age capabilities. The mathematical precision of the layout suggests knowledge of advanced geometric principles that weren't supposed to be developed for centuries. The astronomical alignments indicate sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics that exceeds what is typically attributed to nomadic Bronze Age peoples. Alternative theories propose that Archaeum represents evidence of a much more advanced ancient civilization than previously recognized. Some researchers suggest that the Sintashta culture possessed technological and scientific knowledge that has been significantly underestimated by mainstream archaeology. Others propose that the site may be much older than conventional dating suggests, representing the remains of an advanced prehistoric civilization. The mystery of Archaeum is compounded by the discovery of similar sites throughout the region. Aerial surveys have identified over 20 similar circular settlements across the steppes of Russia and Kazakhstan, suggesting that Archaeum was part of a much larger civilization with standardized urban planning principles. This land of cities, as Russian archaeologists have dubbed it, implies a level of cultural unity and technological sophistication that challenges traditional views of Bronze Age nomadic societies. Recent research using ground-penetrating radar and magnetic surveys has revealed that much of Archaeum remains unexcavated, with extensive underground structures and features that have yet to be fully explored. These hidden aspects of the site may hold crucial clues to understanding the true nature and capabilities of its builders. The Archaeum mystery persists because it represents a convergence of advanced capabilities, sophisticated urban planning, complex construction techniques, advanced metallurgy, and astronomical knowledge, in a time and place where such achievements seem impossible according to conventional historical timelines. The site forces us to reconsider our assumptions about the development of human civilization and the capabilities of ancient peoples who left few written records of their achievements. 4. The Carnac Stones. Location: Brittany, France. Along the rugged coastline of Brittany in northwestern France stands one of the world's most extensive collections of prehistoric standing stones. The Carnac alignments, consisting of over 3,000 megalithic stones arranged in complex patterns, stretching for more than 4 kilometers, represent one of the largest and most mysterious monuments of the Neolithic period. Despite more than 2 centuries of archaeological investigation, the purpose and meaning of these ancient markers remain as enigmatic as when they first captured scholarly attention. The stones of Carnac have been known to local inhabitants for millennia, but they first gained scientific attention in the 18th century, when antiquarians began systematically studying prehistoric monuments across Europe. Early investigators were immediately struck by the scale and complexity of the alignments, which clearly represented a massive coordinated effort involving sophisticated planning and organization. The monument consists of several distinct groupings of stones, each with its own characteristics and apparent purpose. The Menek alignment contains over 1,000 menhirs arranged in 11 roughly parallel rows, stretching for more than a kilometer. The Kermario alignment features nearly 1,000 stones in 10 rows, extending for about 1.3 kilometers. The Klerksdorp alignment includes 540 stones in 13 rows, covering approximately 800 meters. Additional smaller groupings and individual monuments dot the surrounding landscape. What makes the Carnac stones particularly mysterious is not just their number and extent, but the precision and intentionality of their arrangement. The stones are not randomly placed but follow complex geometric patterns that suggest sophisticated planning and astronomical knowledge. The alignments follow subtle curves and variations that appear to correspond to significant celestial events and seasonal markers. The stones themselves range dramatically in size, from relatively small markers less than a meter tall to massive menhirs standing over 6 meters high. This variation in size follows deliberate patterns within each alignment, with the largest stones typically positioned at specific points that seem to mark important transitions or focal points within the overall design. Archaeological investigation has revealed that the construction of Karnak spanned many centuries, with different sections built during different periods between approximately 4,500 and 2,500 BCE. This extended construction period suggests that the monument held lasting significance for successive generations, who continued to add to and modify the alignments over more than 2 millennia. The stone's astronomical alignments have been the subject of intensive study since the 1960s, when researchers began applying modern surveying techniques to analyze their orientations. These studies have revealed that many of the alignments correspond to significant astronomical events, such as solstices, equinoxes, and lunar standstills. However, the complexity of the alignments goes far beyond simple seasonal markers, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. Some researchers have proposed that the Karnak alignments functioned as a massive prehistoric computer, allowing ancient astronomers to predict eclipses and track long-term celestial cycles. This theory suggests that the various rows and groupings of stones work together as components of a complex calculating device, with different sections corresponding to different astronomical phenomena. The archaeological evidence from the surrounding area provides additional clues about the monument's builders and their society. Excavations have revealed evidence of sophisticated Neolithic communities, with advanced knowledge of agriculture, pottery, and tool-making. The scale of the Karnak project would have required the cooperation of numerous communities over many generations, suggesting a level of social organization that challenges assumptions about Neolithic society. Mainstream archaeological interpretation sees the Karnak stones as ceremonial monuments created by Neolithic farming communities for religious or astronomical purposes. According to this view, the alignments served as sacred spaces where communities gathered for seasonal celebrations and rituals. The astronomical alignments would have helped these agricultural societies track seasonal cycles important for farming and religious observances. However, several aspects of the Karnak stones resist easy explanation within conventional archaeological frameworks. The mathematical precision of the alignments suggests knowledge of complex geometric principles that weren't supposed to be developed until much later periods. The scale of the project implies organizational capabilities and resource management skills that exceed what is typically attributed to Neolithic societies. The astronomical complexity of the alignments also poses challenges for conventional interpretation. While simple seasonal markers would serve the needs of agricultural communities, the sophisticated astronomical knowledge apparently encoded in the Karnak stones seems to go far beyond practical requirements. This suggests either that Neolithic peoples possessed much more advanced astronomical knowledge than previously recognized, or that the monuments served purposes beyond simple calendar keeping. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the Karnak mystery. Some researchers suggest that the stones represent evidence of advanced prehistoric civilization with sophisticated scientific and mathematical knowledge. Others propose that the alignments served as communication devices or navigation aids for ancient travelers. More speculative theories suggest connections to lost civilizations or even extraterrestrial influences. Recent research using advanced surveying techniques and computer analysis has revealed additional layers of complexity in the Karnak alignments. Three-dimensional mapping has shown that the monuments incorporate subtle variations in elevation and orientation that follow patterns too complex to be easily explained by conventional theories. These discoveries suggest that our understanding of the stone's true purpose and significance remains incomplete. The Karnak mystery endures because the monuments combine massive scale with sophisticated precision in ways that challenge our understanding of Neolithic capabilities. The astronomical knowledge apparently required to create such complex alignments exceeds what we typically attribute to prehistoric societies. The organizational skills necessary to coordinate such an extensive project over many generations suggest social structures more complex than traditional models propose. 5. The Sacsayhuamán Lines. Location: Sacsayhuamán National Park, Bolivia. High in the Bolivian Altiplano, at elevations exceeding 4,000 meters above sea level, lies one of the world's most extensive but least known archaeological mysteries. The Sacsayhuamán Lines consist of thousands of perfectly straight pathways etched into the landscape, creating a vast network of geometric patterns visible only from aerial perspectives. These ancient lines, which may represent the largest archaeological site in the world by area coverage, challenge our understanding of prehistoric capabilities and purposes in one of Earth's most inhospitable environments. The discovery of the Sacsayhuamán Lines as a significant archaeological phenomenon is relatively recent, dating primarily to aerial surveys conducted in the late 20th century. While local indigenous peoples have always been aware of the paths, their true extent and geometric precision only became apparent when researchers began systematic aerial photography of the region in the 1980s and 1990s. The lines cover an area of approximately 22,500 square kilometers, making them potentially larger in extent than the famous Nazca lines of Peru. Unlike the Nazca geoglyphs, which consist primarily of animal and geometric figures, the Sacsayhuamán Lines form an intricate network of straight pathways that crisscross the landscape in complex geometric patterns. The lines range in length from a few hundred meters to over 20 kilometers, with many maintaining perfectly straight trajectories despite crossing varied terrain. What makes the Sacsayhuamán Lines particularly remarkable is their precision and extent. The paths maintain straight-line trajectories with an accuracy that challenges conventional understanding of ancient surveying capabilities. Many lines appear to radiate from specific points, creating star-like patterns when viewed from above. Others form parallel arrays or intersect at precise geometric angles, suggesting sophisticated planning and execution. The construction technique used to create the lines involves the careful removal of dark volcanic rocks from the surface, exposing lighter-colored earth beneath. This creates clear pathways that remain visible after centuries of weathering in the harsh, high-altitude environment. The consistency of this technique across thousands of individual lines suggests coordinated effort and standardized methods. Archaeological investigation has revealed that the lines connect various types of sites, including ancient settlements, burial grounds, and ceremonial centers. Some lines lead to prominent geographical features such as mountain peaks or water sources. Others seem to terminate at seemingly insignificant points, raising questions about their intended purpose and the criteria used to determine their destinations. The dating of the Sacsayhuamán Lines has proven challenging due to the lack of organic material associated with their construction. However, archaeological evidence from connected sites suggests that at least some of the lines were created during the Tiwanaku period, roughly between 300 and 1000 CE. The possibility that some lines are much older cannot be ruled out, as the construction technique would leave few datable materials. The astronomical alignments of many lines have drawn particular attention from researchers. Preliminary studies suggest that significant numbers of lines align with important celestial events, such as solstices and equinoxes. Some researchers propose that the entire network may represent a massive ground-based astronomical observatory, allowing ancient peoples to track celestial movements across the vast landscape of the Altiplano. The environmental context of the Sacsayhuamán Lines adds another layer to their mystery. The high-altitude environment of the Bolivian Altiplano is extremely challenging for human habitation, with thin air, intense solar radiation, and extreme temperature variations. Creating such an extensive network of pathways in this environment would have required enormous human effort and sophisticated logistical planning. Mainstream archaeological interpretation suggests that the Sacsayhuamán Lines served as ceremonial pathways used by ancient Andean peoples for religious processions and pilgrimages. According to this theory, the lines connected sacred sites and allowed communities to move between ceremonial centers in organized patterns. The straight trajectories would have had ritual significance, representing direct connections between important spiritual locations. However, several aspects of the Sacsayhuamán Lines challenge conventional explanations. The sheer extent of the network seems beyond the practical needs of ceremonial processions. The geometric precision of many alignments suggests sophisticated surveying knowledge that exceeds what is typically attributed to ancient Andean cultures. Most puzzling is the maintenance of straight-line trajectories across difficult terrain, which would have been extremely challenging to achieve without advanced planning tools. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the line's purpose and creation. Some researchers suggest they served as navigation aids for ancient travelers crossing the vast and featureless Altiplano. Others propose that the lines functioned as territorial markers or trade route indicators. More speculative theories suggest that the geometric patterns encode astronomical or mathematical information that we have yet to decipher. The possibility that the Sacsayhuamán lines represent evidence of advanced prehistoric civilization has attracted growing attention. The scale and precision of the network suggest organizational capabilities and technical knowledge that challenge conventional understanding of ancient Andean societies. The astronomical alignments indicate sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics that may have been much more advanced than previously recognized. Recent research using satellite imagery and GPS technology has revealed additional complexity in the Sacsayhuamán lines network. High-resolution mapping has identified previously unknown lines and patterns, suggesting that the full extent of the network may be even larger than initially believed. These discoveries indicate that comprehensive understanding of the site will require many more years of investigation. The mystery of the Sacsayhuamán lines persists because they represent a convergence of massive scale, geometric precision, and sophisticated planning in one of the world's most challenging environments. The network's extent and complexity exceed what seems reasonable for purely ceremonial purposes, while the precision of the alignments suggests technical capabilities that challenge conventional archaeological timelines. 6. The Rock Lake Pyramids. Location: Wisconsin, USA. Beneath the murky waters of Rock Lake in southeastern Wisconsin lie what may be some of North America's most controversial archaeological structures. The Rock Lake Pyramids, a collection of stone formations discovered by divers in the early 20th century, have sparked decades of debate about their origin, age, and significance. These submerged structures challenge conventional understanding of prehistoric North American civilization and raise fundamental questions about the technological capabilities of ancient peoples in the region. The first reported discovery of unusual structures in Rock Lake dates to the 1830s, when local residents claimed to observe geometric stone formations beneath the water during periods of exceptional clarity. However, systematic investigation didn't begin until 1900, when local historian Claude Wilson began documenting reports of underwater structures and conducting preliminary dives to investigate the claims. Wilson's early investigations revealed the presence of several large stone structures resting on the lake bottom at depths ranging from 10 to 40 feet. The structures appeared to be constructed from carefully fitted stone blocks arranged in geometric patterns, with some formations resembling stepped pyramids or platform mounds. Wilson documented at least 13 distinct structures, ranging in size from small stone platforms to massive pyramidal formations over 100 feet in length. The most impressive structure, dubbed the Great Pyramid by early investigators, measures approximately 100 feet long, 60 feet wide, and 18 feet tall. The formation consists of carefully fitted stone blocks arranged in a stepped configuration reminiscent of Mesoamerican pyramids. The precision of the stonework and the geometric regularity of the structure's design suggest deliberate construction rather than natural formation. Archaeological investigation has revealed several features that support the artificial nature of the Rock Lake structures. The stones used in construction don't match the local geology of the lake bottom, suggesting they were transported from elsewhere. Many stones show evidence of deliberate shaping and fitting, with flat surfaces and precise angles that wouldn't occur naturally. The arrangements follow clear geometric patterns that are inconsistent with random natural processes. Underwater surveys have documented additional features associated with the main structures, including what appear to be causeways, walls, and smaller ancillary buildings. These associated features suggest that the underwater site once represented a complex of interconnected structures rather than isolated monuments. The organization and planning evident in the layout indicates sophisticated construction planning and execution. The question of when these structures were built, and whether they were originally constructed underwater or subsequently submerged, has proven central to understanding their significance. Geological evidence suggests that Rock Lake's water levels have fluctuated significantly over time, with periods when the current lake bottom was dry land. This raises the possibility that the structures were built during a period of lower water levels and later submerged as the lake expanded. Carbon dating of organic materials found in association with the structures has yielded dates ranging from approximately 1,000 to 3,000 years ago, though the reliability of these dates remains disputed due to the underwater environment and potential contamination. More controversial dating attempts using other methods have suggested much greater antiquity, possibly extending back 10,000 years or more. The cultural context of the Rock Lake Pyramids adds another layer to their mystery. The region was inhabited by various Native American cultures over thousands of years, including groups known for their sophisticated earthwork construction. The woodland cultures of the area built extensive networks of ceremonial mounds and earthworks, demonstrating advanced knowledge of construction techniques and complex social organization. Mainstream archaeological opinion remains divided about the Rock Lake structures. Some researchers accept that artificial stone structures exist beneath the lake, but argue they represent relatively recent Native American construction, possibly dating to the woodland period. According to this interpretation, the structures served ceremonial or practical purposes for indigenous communities and were subsequently submerged by rising water levels. However, skeptical archaeologists question whether the underwater formations represent artificial structures at all. They argue that the apparent geometric regularity could result from natural geological processes, such as glacial action or limestone dissolution. According to this view, the structures are natural formations that appear artificial due to the effects of underwater viewing and human pattern-seeking behavior. Alternative theories propose much more dramatic interpretations of the Rock Lake Pyramids. Some researchers suggest they represent evidence of advanced prehistoric civilization in North America, possibly connected to ancient Old World cultures through transoceanic contact. Others propose that the structures are remnants of a lost civilization that flourished in the Great Lakes region thousands of years before known historical cultures. The controversy surrounding the Rock Lake Pyramids has been complicated by limited access to the site and restrictions on systematic archaeological investigation. The underwater environment makes detailed study challenging and expensive, while concerns about site preservation have limited the scope of permitted research. This has allowed speculation to flourish, while preventing definitive resolution of the structure's nature and significance. Recent advances in underwater archaeological techniques offer new possibilities for resolving the Rock Lake mystery. High-resolution sonar mapping, underwater photogrammetry, and advanced diving equipment could provide much more detailed documentation of the structures than has previously been possible. However, conducting such comprehensive investigation would require significant resources and cooperation between multiple institutions. The Rock Lake Pyramids remain mysterious because they represent a potential challenge to conventional understanding of prehistoric North American civilization. If the structures are indeed artificial and ancient, they suggest technological capabilities and cultural complexity that exceed what is typically attributed to regional prehistoric cultures. Their underwater location adds additional complexity, raising questions about ancient water levels, climate change, and the preservation of archaeological evidence in aquatic environments. 7. The Lost City of Pavlopetri. Location: Laconia, Greece. Off the southern coast of Greece's Peloponnese Peninsula, submerged beneath just 3 to 4 meters of clear Mediterranean water, lies what may be the world's oldest known underwater city. Pavlopetri, dating to approximately 5,000 years ago, represents a remarkably well-preserved example of Bronze Age urban planning that challenges our understanding of ancient Mediterranean civilization. The site's exceptional preservation and sophisticated layout provide unprecedented insights into early urban development, while raising intriguing questions about ancient sea levels and the causes of the city's submersion. The discovery of Pavlopetri came about through a combination of local knowledge and systematic archaeological survey. Local fishermen and sponge divers had long been aware of stone structures beneath the water, but the site's archaeological significance wasn't recognized until 1967, when marine archaeologist Nicholas Fleming began systematic investigation of the area. Fleming's initial surveys revealed the extent and remarkable preservation of what appeared to be an entire ancient city. The submerged ruins cover an area of approximately 30,000 square meters, making Pavlopetri one of the largest underwater archaeological sites in the Mediterranean. The city's layout reveals sophisticated urban planning principles, with clear evidence of streets, courtyards, buildings, and what appears to be a complex water management system. The structures are built from local limestone blocks fitted together with impressive precision. The level of preservation at Pavlopetri is extraordinary, with building walls standing up to 3 meters high in some areas. The site includes what appear to be residential districts, ceremonial areas, and industrial zones, suggesting a complex urban society with sophisticated social and economic organization. The city's layout follows clear planning principles, with regular street patterns and organized building blocks that wouldn't look out of place in modern urban design. Archaeological investigation has revealed artifacts and architectural features that provide insights into daily life in Bronze Age Pavlopetri. These include pottery fragments, stone tools, and evidence of metallurgy and textile production. The artifacts suggest connections to other Bronze Age civilizations throughout the Mediterranean, indicating that Pavlopetri was part of extensive trade networks that spanned the ancient world. One of the most intriguing aspects of Pavlopetri is its apparent abandonment and submersion. The site shows no evidence of violent destruction or rapid abandonment, suggesting that the inhabitants left gradually as rising water levels made the city uninhabitable. This raises fascinating questions about ancient sea levels and climate change in the eastern Mediterranean region. Recent research using advanced underwater archaeological techniques has revealed additional complexity in the Pavlopetri site. Three-dimensional mapping using photogrammetry and sonar has created detailed models of the entire city, revealing architectural features and urban planning elements that weren't apparent in earlier investigations. These studies have shown that the city was even more sophisticated than initially believed. The dating of Pavlopetri has been established through multiple lines of evidence, including pottery analysis, architectural comparison, and radiocarbon dating of organic materials. The evidence consistently points to occupation during the early Bronze Age, roughly between 3000 and 1100 BCE, with the main period of urban development occurring around 2800 BCE. Mainstream archaeological interpretation sees Pavlopetri as an exceptional example of early Bronze Age urbanization in the Aegean region. The city represents evidence of sophisticated Helladic culture that developed complex urban centers well before the rise of classical Greek civilization. The site's submersion is attributed to gradual sea level rise and possible seismic activity that lowered the coastal area relative to sea level. The sophisticated urban planning evident at Pavlopetri challenges some assumptions about Bronze Age capabilities in the Mediterranean. The regular street layout, complex water management systems, and organized building districts suggest a level of urban planning sophistication that rivals much later classical cities. This indicates that Bronze Age Mediterranean civilizations possessed advanced knowledge of urban design and construction techniques. However, several aspects of Pavlopetri raise questions that extend beyond conventional archaeological interpretation. The precision of the city's planning and the sophistication of its water management systems seem remarkably advanced for their supposed age. The lack of clear parallels for such sophisticated Bronze Age urban development in the region suggests that Pavlopetri may represent evidence of technological capabilities that have been underestimated. The cause and timing of Pavlopetri's submersion also present puzzles. While gradual sea level rise provides a plausible explanation, the complete preservation of the city suggests relatively rapid submersion that prevented later occupation or stone robbing. Some researchers have proposed that seismic events may have caused sudden subsidence, though geological evidence for such events remains limited. Alternative theories suggest that Pavlopetri may be older than conventional dating indicates, representing evidence of advanced prehistoric Mediterranean civilization. Some researchers propose connections to lost civilizations or advanced ancient cultures that possess sophisticated urban planning knowledge. More speculative interpretations suggest that the city's submersion may have been more sudden and catastrophic than generally believed, possibly related to ancient cataclysmic events. The mystery of Pavlopetri endures because it represents such an exceptional example of Bronze Age urban sophistication that it challenges assumptions about the technological and organizational capabilities of ancient Mediterranean peoples. The city's remarkable preservation provides a unique window into urban life 5,000 years ago, yet its very existence seems to exceed what should have been possible during that period. As underwater archaeological techniques continue to advance, Pavlopetri may yield additional secrets about the true capabilities of ancient civilizations. 8. The Longyu Caves. Location: Zhejiang Province, China. In the Yangtze River Valley of eastern China, beneath the small town of Xianbeicun in Zhejiang Province, lies one of the most remarkable and mysterious archaeological discoveries of the modern era. The Longyu Caves, a vast network of artificial underground chambers carved from solid rock, represent what may be the largest underground excavation project in human history. The scale, precision, and purpose of these ancient caverns continue to baffle archaeologists, engineers, and historians more than 2 decades after their accidental discovery. The discovery of the Longyu Caves came about through pure chance in 1992, when local farmer Wu Anai decided to pump water from what he believed to be a natural pond on his property. As the water level dropped, Wu discovered that what he had taken for a pond was actually the water-filled entrance to a massive artificial cave system. Word of the discovery quickly spread, leading to systematic investigation that revealed the true extent of this underground marvel. The cave system consists of at least 36 individual chambers, though only a fraction have been fully explored and mapped. The chambers vary dramatically in size, with the largest measuring over 2,000 square meters in floor area and reaching heights of 30 meters. The total volume of rock removed to create the known chambers is estimated at over 1 million cubic meters, representing an excavation project of almost incomprehensible scale. What makes the Longyu Caves truly extraordinary is not just their size, but the precision and sophistication of their construction. The chambers are carved with remarkable geometric regularity, featuring perfectly straight walls, precise right angles, and uniform ceiling heights. The excavation technique demonstrates advanced knowledge of structural engineering, with carefully designed support pillars and load-bearing elements that have prevented collapse for thousands of years. The chambers feature elaborate decorative elements carved directly into the rock walls and ceilings. These include intricate geometric patterns, stylized representations of animals and fish, and complex symbolic designs whose meaning remains mysterious. The precision and artistry of these carvings rival the finest stone sculpture found anywhere in the ancient world, executed with tools and techniques that remain unknown. Perhaps most mysteriously, the caves show no evidence of the millions of tons of rock that would have been removed during their construction. Despite extensive investigation of the surrounding area, archaeologists have found no trace of debris piles, quarry areas, or construction camps that would indicate where the excavated material was deposited. This absence of construction evidence has led to speculation about unknown disposal methods or transportation techniques. The dating of the Longyu Caves has proven challenging due to the lack of organic materials within the chambers. However, analysis of carving techniques, architectural styles, and limited archaeological evidence suggests construction during the period between 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. This would place the excavation project during China's ancient imperial period, though no historical records mention such a massive undertaking. The chambers show evidence of sophisticated planning and coordination across the entire complex. The individual caves are positioned and oriented according to precise geometric principles, with consistent architectural elements and decorative motifs throughout the system. This uniformity suggests that the entire project was conceived and executed as a coordinated effort rather than developing organically over time. Archaeological investigation has revealed few clues about the cave's original purpose. The chambers contain no obvious residential features, storage facilities, or religious artifacts that would indicate their function. The elaborate decorative elements and sophisticated architecture suggest ceremonial or religious purposes, but the specific nature of activities conducted within the caves remains unknown. The engineering challenges overcome in creating the Longyu Caves were formidable. Excavating such massive chambers from solid rock would have required advanced knowledge of structural mechanics to prevent collapse. The precision of the carving suggests sophisticated surveying and planning tools, while the scale of the project implies organizational capabilities and resource management skills that seem extraordinary for ancient China. Mainstream archaeological interpretation struggles to provide adequate explanations for the Longyu Caves. The scale and sophistication of the excavation exceed what is typically attributed to ancient Chinese civilization, while the absence of historical records makes it difficult to place the project within known historical contexts. Some researchers propose that the caves served as underground palaces or ceremonial centers for wealthy rulers, though this explanation doesn't fully account for their unique characteristics. The mystery is compounded by the apparent impossibility of the construction project using available ancient techniques. Creating chambers of such size and precision would challenge modern engineering capabilities, yet the caves were somehow excavated using tools and methods available thousands of years ago. The absence of construction debris suggests disposal or transportation methods that remain unexplained. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the cave's origin and purpose. Some researchers suggest they represent evidence of advanced ancient technology that has since been lost. Others propose that the caves were created for purposes we can't currently understand, possibly related to functions or beliefs that have no modern parallels. More speculative theories suggest connections to lost civilizations or even extraterrestrial intervention. Recent research using advanced survey techniques has revealed additional complexity in the cave system. Ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping have identified previously unknown chambers and passages, suggesting that the full extent of the excavation may be even larger than currently known. These discoveries indicate that comprehensive understanding of the Long U caves will require many more years of investigation. The precision of the cave's construction continues to mystify engineers and architects who study the site. The mathematical regularity of the chambers, the sophistication of the structural design, and the quality of the decorative carving all suggest capabilities that seem impossibly advanced for their supposed age. Computer modeling of the excavation process has failed to identify practical methods for achieving such results using available ancient techniques. The Long U caves remain one of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries because they represent a convergence of massive scale, sophisticated engineering, and artistic achievement that defies explanation within conventional historical frameworks. The caves challenge our understanding of ancient Chinese capabilities while providing no clear evidence of their purpose or construction methods. Until these fundamental questions can be answered, the Long U caves will continue to stand as testament to the unknown achievements of our ancestors. 9. The Kaimanawa Wall. Location: North Island, New Zealand. In the remote Kaimanawa Forest Park on New Zealand's North Island stands a mysterious stone structure that has sparked intense debate about the island's prehistoric past. The Kaimanawa Wall, a precisely fitted megalithic construction hidden deep in the native forest, challenges conventional understanding of pre-Maori New Zealand and raises fundamental questions about who built sophisticated stone structures in a land supposedly uninhabited by advanced civilizations. The discovery of the Kaimanawa Wall is credited to Barry Brailsford, a New Zealand researcher and author, who first reported the structure in the 1990s during explorations of the remote forest region. Brailsford's initial documentation revealed what appeared to be a carefully constructed stone wall, built from massive blocks fitted together with impressive precision. The structure's sophisticated construction techniques seemed inconsistent with known Maori building traditions. The wall extends for approximately 20 meters along a natural ridge, constructed from local andesite blocks that have been carefully shaped and fitted together. The largest blocks weigh several tons and show evidence of precise cutting and positioning. The construction technique involves no mortar, relying instead on exact fitting of irregularly shaped stones, similar to techniques found in other ancient megalithic sites around the world. What makes the Kaimanawa Wall particularly intriguing is the precision of its construction and the sophistication of the stonework. The blocks are fitted together so tightly that gaps between stones are minimal, creating a remarkably stable structure, despite the absence of binding materials. Many blocks show evidence of deliberate shaping, with flat surfaces and precise angles that wouldn't occur naturally. The wall's location adds another layer to its mystery. The structure is situated in dense native forest, far from any known Maori settlements or major travel routes. The remote location seems inconsistent with practical purposes such as fortification or territorial marking, raising questions about why such effort would be expended to build a sophisticated structure in such an isolated area. Archaeological investigation of the wall and surrounding area has yielded limited evidence about its age or builders. The absence of organic materials associated with the construction makes radiocarbon dating impossible, while the local andesite stone provides no useful dating information. The wall's relationship to natural geological features and forest growth patterns suggests significant antiquity, possibly extending back thousands of years. The construction technique employed in the Kaimanawa Wall show striking similarities to megalithic construction methods found in other parts of the world, particularly in South America and the Pacific Islands. The precise fitting of irregular stone blocks without mortar is characteristic of advanced ancient construction traditions found in locations such as Machu Picchu and Easter Island. Examination of the individual stones reveals evidence of sophisticated tool use and construction planning. Many blocks show what appear to be tool marks from cutting and shaping processes, while the overall organization of the wall demonstrates advanced understanding of structural engineering principles. The consistent quality of workmanship throughout the structure suggests skilled builders and standardized construction techniques. The geological context of the wall has been subject to intensive study, with researchers attempting to determine whether the structure represents artificial construction or unusual natural formation. While some geological processes can create regular stone formations, the precision and organization of the Kaimanawa Wall exceed what would be expected from natural processes alone. Mainstream archaeological opinion in New Zealand has generally been skeptical of claims about the wall's artificial nature. Many researchers argue that the structure represents a natural geological formation created by volcanic activity and subsequent weathering processes. According to this interpretation, the apparent precision of the stonework results from natural fracturing patterns in the andesite rock. However, detailed examination of the wall has revealed features that challenge purely geological explanations. The presence of apparently cut surfaces, the precise fitting of adjacent blocks, and the overall organization of the structure suggest deliberate construction rather than natural formation. Independent geological assessment has failed to identify natural processes that could account for all the observed characteristics. The cultural implications of the Kaimanawa Wall are significant for New Zealand archaeology. If the structure is indeed artificial, it would represent evidence of sophisticated stone construction capabilities in pre-European New Zealand. This would challenge conventional understanding of Maori technology and suggest either previously unknown capabilities among Polynesian settlers or evidence of earlier inhabitants. Alternative theories about the wall's origin range from conventional to highly speculative. Some researchers propose that the structure represents an unknown aspect of early Maori construction, possibly related to ceremonial or spiritual purposes. Others suggest that the wall was built by pre-Maori inhabitants who possessed advanced stoneworking capabilities. More controversial theories propose connections to ancient Pacific civilizations or even transoceanic contact with South American cultures. Proponents of these theories point to the similarities between the Kaimanawa Wall's construction technique and megalithic traditions found elsewhere in the Pacific and South America as evidence of ancient cultural connections. Recent research using advanced survey techniques has attempted to resolve questions about the wall's nature and origin. High-resolution photography, precise measurement, and geological analysis have provided detailed documentation of the structure's characteristics. However, these studies have failed to provide definitive answers about whether the wall represents natural formation or artificial construction. The debate over the Kaimanawa Wall reflects broader questions about New Zealand's prehistoric past and the capabilities of its early inhabitants. The conventional view holds that the islands were uninhabited until Polynesian settlement around 1,000 years ago, with subsequent development following well-documented patterns of Maori culture. The wall challenges this timeline by suggesting possible evidence of sophisticated construction capabilities. The mystery of the Kaimanawa Wall persists because it represents a structure that seems inconsistent with established understanding of New Zealand's prehistoric development. Whether natural or artificial, the wall challenges assumptions about the island's geological processes or cultural history. Until definitive evidence emerges about its origin and construction, the Kaimanawa Wall will remain one of New Zealand's most controversial archaeological mysteries. 10. The Tunnels of Baiae. Location: Bay of Naples, Italy. Beneath the waters of the Bay of Naples, near the ancient Roman resort town of Baiae, lies a network of submerged tunnels and chambers that represents one of the most sophisticated examples of ancient hydraulic engineering ever discovered. The tunnels of Baiae, now flooded due to volcanic activity and seismic changes, were once part of an elaborate system that supplied fresh water and provided drainage for one of the Roman Empire's most luxurious destinations. Yet the scale, precision, and advanced engineering of these tunnels continue to astound modern engineers, and raise questions about the true extent of Roman technological capabilities. The modern rediscovery of the Baiae tunnel system began in the 1940s when underwater explorers investigating the submerged ruins of the ancient city began documenting extensive tunnel networks extending beneath the bay floor. Systematic archaeological investigation revealed that these passages were not natural caves, but precisely engineered artificial constructions that once served complex, practical, and possibly ceremonial purposes. The tunnel system extends for several kilometers beneath what was once the ancient shoreline, connecting various parts of the resort complex and extending inland to freshwater sources in the nearby hills. The main tunnel, known as the Grotta di Seiano, stretches for over 700 meters and maintains remarkably consistent dimensions throughout its length, demonstrating precision engineering that rivals modern construction standards. The construction of the tunnels represents an extraordinary feat of ancient engineering. The passages were carved through solid volcanic rock, using techniques that achieved remarkable precision and consistency. The tunnels maintain uniform heights and widths across their entire length, with smooth walls and carefully graded floors that ensured proper water flow and drainage. The mathematical precision required for such construction exceeds what is typically attributed to Roman engineering capabilities. What makes the Baiae tunnels particularly remarkable is their integration with complex hydraulic systems that supplied the ancient resort with fresh water and therapeutic hot springs. The engineers who created the tunnels understood sophisticated principles of hydraulics, pressure management, and water distribution that allowed them to create a reliable supply system for one of the ancient world's most demanding recreational facilities. The tunnels feature elaborate chambers and junction points where multiple passages intersect. These spaces show evidence of sophisticated planning and construction, with arched ceilings, decorative elements, and what appear to be control mechanisms for managing water flow. The level of detail and craftsmanship evident in these underground spaces rivals the finest above-ground Roman architecture. Archaeological investigation has revealed that the tunnel system served multiple purposes beyond simple water supply and drainage. Some passages appear to have been used for transportation, allowing discrete movement between different parts of the resort complex. Others may have served ceremonial or religious functions, possibly related to mystery religions that were popular among wealthy Romans. The dating of the tunnels spans several centuries of Roman occupation, with evidence suggesting that the system was expanded and refined over many generations. The earliest construction appears to date to the late Republican period, while additional passages and modifications were added throughout the imperial period. This extended development timeline demonstrates the ongoing importance of the site and the continuous investment in its infrastructure. The engineering challenges overcome in creating the Baiae tunnels were formidable. Carving precise passages through hard volcanic rock required advanced knowledge of stone-cutting techniques and sophisticated tools. Managing water flow through the complex network demanded understanding of hydraulic principles that wouldn't be fully redeveloped until the Renaissance period. Perhaps most impressively, the tunnel builders had to account for the complex geology of the region, including volcanic activity, seismic instability, and groundwater management. The tunnels were designed to withstand earthquakes and volcanic events while maintaining their hydraulic functions, demonstrating remarkable foresight and engineering sophistication. Mainstream archaeological interpretation sees the Baiae tunnels as an exceptional example of Roman engineering prowess applied to creating luxury amenities for wealthy patrons. The tunnels represent the pinnacle of Roman hydraulic engineering, showcasing the empire's ability to overcome challenging geographical and geological conditions to create sophisticated infrastructure. However, several aspects of the tunnel system challenge conventional understanding of Roman capabilities. The precision of the excavation and the sophistication of the hydraulic engineering seem to exceed what is typically attributed to ancient technology. The mathematical planning required to create such an extensive and integrated system suggests knowledge and tools that may have been more advanced than generally recognized. The mysterious aspects of some tunnel chambers have led to alternative interpretations of their purpose and significance. Some researchers suggest that portions of the system served functions beyond practical water management, possibly related to religious ceremonies or secret activities conducted by elite Roman society. The elaborate decoration and sophisticated architecture of certain chambers support these interpretations. Recent underwater archaeological investigation has revealed additional complexity in the tunnel system that wasn't apparent in earlier studies. Advanced diving techniques and underwater mapping have identified previously unknown passages and chambers, suggesting that the full extent of the system remains to be discovered. These new discoveries indicate that the tunnel network may be even more extensive and sophisticated than previously believed. The preservation of the tunnels in their underwater environment has provided unique opportunities for studying ancient construction techniques. The lack of weathering and human interference has left many features intact that would have been lost in terrestrial environments. This preservation allows detailed analysis of tool marks, construction sequences, and engineering solutions employed by ancient builders. Modern engineering analysis of the tunnel system has revealed design principles and construction techniques that continue to influence contemporary hydraulic engineering. The Romans' solutions to problems of water management, pressure control, and structural stability in challenging geological conditions provide valuable insights for modern infrastructure projects. The mystery of the Baiae tunnels lies not in their basic purpose, which is reasonably well understood, but in the sophistication and precision of their execution. The level of engineering knowledge and construction capability demonstrated in the tunnels seems to exceed what conventional understanding of Roman technology would predict. This suggests either that Roman engineering capabilities have been significantly underestimated, or that the builders of Baiae possessed knowledge and techniques that were exceptional even by Roman standards. The tunnels represent a convergence of advanced engineering, sophisticated planning, and masterful execution that challenges assumptions about the limits of ancient technological achievement. As underwater archaeological techniques continue to advance, the Baiae tunnel system may yield additional insights into the true extent of Roman engineering capabilities and the sophisticated infrastructure that supported ancient luxury and comfort. These 10 remarkable sites from around the world demonstrate the global nature of ancient construction mysteries and the consistent patterns that appear across different cultures and time periods. From the impossible precision of Sacsayhuamán stonework to the sophisticated hydraulic engineering of Baiae's tunnels, these monuments challenge our understanding of what ancient peoples could achieve with supposedly primitive tools and techniques. Each site tells part of a larger story about human capability and ingenuity that extends far beyond conventional historical timelines. The mathematical precision, astronomical knowledge, and engineering sophistication evident in these structures suggest that our ancestors possessed capabilities that we're only beginning to appreciate. Whether these achievements represent lost knowledge, underestimated ancient capabilities, or evidence of civilizations more advanced than previously recognized remains one of archaeology's most compelling mysteries. As we move forward in our exploration of these 50 archaeological enigmas, the patterns established by these monumental structures will continue to appear in different forms across various categories of mysterious discoveries. The precision, scale, and sophistication that characterize these ancient buildings set the stage for equally puzzling artifacts, anomalous remains, and inexplicable technologies that challenge our understanding of the human story. Having explored the enigmatic structures and monuments that dot our planet's landscape, we now turn our attention to a different category of archaeological mystery: artifacts that seem impossibly out of place in time, crafted with technologies that shouldn't have existed when they were made, or bearing evidence of knowledge that challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. These objects, small enough to hold in one's hands yet profound enough to overturn historical paradigms, represent some of archaeology's most perplexing puzzles. Unlike the massive stone constructions we've just examined, these artifacts often appear deceptively simple at first glance: a sword blade, a hammer, a bowl, everyday objects that millions of people have used throughout history. Yet upon closer examination, each reveals characteristics that seem to violate the established timeline of technological development, suggesting that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. What makes these artifacts particularly compelling is their intimate nature. While ancient monuments might represent the achievements of entire civilizations working over decades or centuries, these objects were held, used, and crafted by individual human beings whose technical knowledge apparently exceeded that of their contemporaries by hundreds or even thousands of years. They suggest not just isolated instances of advanced technology, but potentially entire traditions of knowledge that have been lost to time. As we examine these 9 remarkable artifacts, we'll encounter recurring themes that challenge fundamental assumptions about technological progression. We'll discover evidence of metallurgy that seems centuries ahead of its time, artifacts that appear in geological contexts that make them impossibly old, and objects that demonstrate knowledge of geography, astronomy, and engineering that their supposed creators couldn't have possessed. Each artifact tells a story not just of ancient ingenuity, but of modern archaeology's struggle to reconcile physical evidence with established historical frameworks. These objects force us to confront uncomfortable questions about the linear progression of technology, the possibility of lost civilizations, and the adequacy of our current understanding of human achievement. 1. The Ulfberht Viking swords. Location: Scandinavia and Northern Europe. Scattered across museums and private collections throughout Northern Europe lies evidence of what may be the most advanced metallurgical achievement of the medieval period. The Ulfberht swords, bearing the distinctive inscription plus Ulfberht plus on their blades, represent a technological mystery that has puzzled metallurgists and historians for over a century. These Viking-era weapons demonstrate steel-making capabilities that weren't supposed to exist in Northern Europe for several more centuries, suggesting either remarkable technological advancement or mysterious knowledge transfer from unknown sources. The first Ulfberht sword to attract scholarly attention was discovered in the early 19th century, though the significance of its advanced metallurgy wasn't recognized until much later. As more examples were found throughout Scandinavia, the Baltic regions, and areas of Viking influence, researchers began to notice that these weapons shared not only the distinctive inscription, but also remarkably consistent metallurgical properties that set them apart from other medieval swords. To date, archaeologists have cataloged over 170 authentic Ulfberht swords found across a geographic range spanning from Iceland to Ukraine. The swords date primarily to the 9th through 11th centuries CE, the height of the Viking Age, yet their steel composition and manufacturing techniques seem to belong to a much later period of technological development. What makes the Ulfberht swords truly extraordinary is their steel composition and the sophisticated metallurgical processes required to create them. Analysis reveals that authentic Ulfberht blades contain crucible steel with remarkably low slag content and high carbon levels approaching 1.5%. This type of steel, with its superior strength and flexibility, wasn't supposed to be producible in Northern Europe until blast furnace technology was introduced in the 15th century. The process required to create such high-quality steel involves techniques that medieval European metallurgy shouldn't have been capable of achieving. The steel needed to be heated to temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius and subjected to precise carbon content control that required advanced understanding of metallurgical chemistry. The resulting material was then forged using techniques that prevented the degradation of its superior properties. Perhaps most mysteriously, the steel used in Ulfberht swords appears to be crucible steel, similar to that produced in South Asia, particularly in regions that would later become famous for Damascus steel and Wootz steel production. This raises fascinating questions about trade networks, technology transfer, and the extent of Viking connections to distant lands. How did Northern European smiths obtain access to such advanced materials and knowledge? The inscriptions found on the swords add another layer to the mystery. The plus Ulfberht plus marking appears in variations across different examples, suggesting either a brand name, a maker's mark, or possibly a location indicator. However, no historical records mention any smith, workshop, or location named Ulfberht. The inscriptions themselves were inlaid into the steel using techniques that required considerable skill and specialized knowledge. Chemical analysis of multiple Ulfberht swords has revealed that they fall into 2 distinct categories: those made from genuine crucible steel with exceptional properties, and inferior copies made using locally available materials and techniques. This suggests that there was both an original source of superior weapons and later attempts to replicate them using conventional medieval methods. The existence of these copies indicates that the original Ulfberht swords were highly prized and sought after. The superior examples demonstrate metallurgical knowledge that includes understanding of carbon migration, heat treatment, and alloy chemistry that wasn't supposed to be available to medieval European smiths. The precision required to maintain consistent steel quality across multiple weapons suggests not just individual genius, but systematic knowledge and possibly specialized training or instruction. Mainstream archaeological interpretation attempts to explain the Ulfberht swords through long-distance trade networks that brought superior raw materials from Asia to northern European smiths. According to this theory, Viking traders obtained crucible steel ingots from South Asian sources and had them forged into swords by local craftsmen. This explanation accounts for the superior materials while maintaining that the actual smithing occurred within known technological parameters. However, several aspects of the Ulfberht mystery resist conventional explanations. The consistent quality of the superior examples suggests that whoever was working the steel possessed advanced knowledge of its properties and appropriate handling techniques. Simply having access to superior raw materials wouldn't guarantee successful forging without corresponding knowledge of proper techniques. The geographic distribution of the swords also raises questions about trade network explanations. While some examples have been found in areas with known trading connections to Asia, others have appeared in locations where such extensive trade contacts seem unlikely. The concentration of finds in Scandinavia suggests local production rather than importation of finished weapons. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the advanced metallurgy. Some researchers suggest that the Ulfberht swords represent evidence of previously unknown technological capabilities among Viking Age smiths, possibly involving techniques that were later lost during periods of social disruption. Others propose that the weapons indicate more extensive contact with Asian metallurgical traditions than historical records suggest. More speculative theories suggest that the Ulfberht swords represent evidence of lost technological knowledge that may have been more widespread in the ancient world than currently recognized. Proponents of this view argue that advanced metallurgy may have been developed and lost multiple times throughout history, with the Ulfberht swords representing one example of such technological renaissance. Recent research using advanced analytical techniques has provided additional insights into the mystery while raising new questions. Scanning electron microscopy and X-ray fluorescence analysis have revealed manufacturing details that weren't apparent in earlier studies, showing evidence of sophisticated heat treatment and possibly even differential hardening techniques that parallel much later developments in sword making. The mystery of the Ulfberht swords endures because they represent a convergence of advanced materials, sophisticated manufacturing techniques, and metallurgical knowledge that seems impossibly advanced for their historical context. Whether they represent evidence of extensive ancient trade networks, lost technological knowledge, or previously unrecognized medieval capabilities, they challenge assumptions about the linear progression of technological development and the isolation of medieval European culture from advanced Asian metallurgy. 2. The London Hammer. Location: London, Texas, USA. In a limestone concretion discovered near London, Texas, in 1936, lies embedded an object that has become one of the most controversial artifacts in modern archaeology. The London Hammer, as it has come to be known, presents what appears to be a modern metal hammerhead attached to a wooden handle, yet it was allegedly found encased in rock formations dating back millions of years. This temporal impossibility has made the artifact a lightning rod for debates about geological processes, artifact contamination, and the reliability of contextual dating methods. The discovery of the London Hammer is credited to Max Hahn and his wife, who found the limestone nodule containing the partially exposed hammer while walking along a creek bed near London, Texas. The object remained in the Hahn family for several years before being brought to public attention by creation science advocates who saw it as potential evidence against conventional geological dating methods. The hammer itself appears to be of relatively modern construction, with a metal head approximately 15 centimeters long and a wooden handle that extends from the stone matrix. The metal composition has been analyzed and found to be unusually pure iron, with trace amounts of sulfur and chlorine. The handle appears to be made from a type of wood that has undergone partial petrification while remaining embedded in the limestone matrix. What makes the London Hammer controversial is not its construction, which appears consistent with 19th or early 20th century manufacturing, but its alleged geological context. Proponents claim that the limestone concretion in which it was found dates to the Cretaceous period, approximately 100 million years ago, based on the geological formation from which it was reportedly extracted. The limestone encasing the hammer shows characteristics typical of concretion formation, where mineral deposits gradually accumulate around a central object over long periods. The rock matrix appears to have formed naturally around the hammer, creating a hard limestone shell that completely enclosed portions of the tool. This type of formation typically requires thousands to millions of years to develop under conventional geological models. Chemical analysis of the hammer's metal head has revealed unusual properties that have added to the mystery. The iron shows remarkably little corrosion despite its supposed great age and the presence of moisture within the limestone matrix. The metal's composition includes unusually high purity levels and trace elements that some researchers argue are inconsistent with modern industrial production methods. The wooden handle presents another puzzle, as it appears to have undergone partial fossilization while retaining recognizable wood grain and structure. This type of preservation is unusual and typically requires specific conditions and extended time periods. The handle's condition seems inconsistent with normal decay processes, yet it doesn't show the characteristics typical of ancient petrified wood. Mainstream geological and archaeological interpretation of the London hammer focuses on the processes by which modern objects can become encased in mineral deposits through accelerated geological processes. Limestone concretions can form relatively rapidly under certain conditions, particularly in areas with high mineral content in groundwater. According to this explanation, the hammer was likely dropped or lost in the 19th or early 20th century and subsequently became encased in limestone through natural mineral deposition processes. This conventional interpretation is supported by the hammer's obvious modern characteristics and the lack of definitive stratigraphic evidence linking it to ancient geological formations. The limestone concretion could have formed around the hammer within decades rather than millions of years, given appropriate chemical conditions in the local environment. However, proponents of the hammer's anomalous nature argue that conventional explanations fail to account for all observed evidence. They point to the degree of mineralization around the hammer and the apparent integration of the metal and stone as evidence that the encasement process required much longer time periods than conventional geology acknowledges. The purity of the hammer's iron composition has also been cited as evidence against modern origin. Some analysts argue that the metal's characteristics are inconsistent with 19th or 20th century iron production methods, suggesting either much earlier manufacture or unknown production techniques. However, these claims have been disputed by metallurgists who argue that the composition falls within the range of historical iron working. Alternative theories about the London hammer range from accelerated fossilization processes to evidence of ancient technological civilizations. Some researchers propose that geological processes can occur much more rapidly than conventional models suggest, allowing modern objects to become mineralized within decades rather than millennia. Others suggest that the hammer represents evidence of advanced ancient civilizations that possessed metallurgical capabilities similar to modern techniques. More extreme theories propose that the hammer represents evidence of time anomalies or even extraterrestrial intervention. Proponents of these views argue that conventional dating methods are fundamentally flawed and that artifacts like the London hammer represent evidence of technological capabilities that challenge established historical timelines. Recent attempts to resolve the London hammer controversy have been hampered by limited access to the artifact and restrictions on destructive testing. The hammer remains in private hands, making comprehensive scientific analysis difficult. This has allowed speculation to flourish while preventing definitive resolution of the artifact's true nature and origin. The scientific consensus views the London hammer as a modern artifact that became encased in limestone through natural geological processes operating over relatively short time periods. The hammer's construction, materials, and context are all consistent with 19th or early 20th century origin, while the limestone encasement represents an interesting example of rapid concretion formation rather than evidence of anomalous geological dating. The mystery of the London hammer persists primarily due to the dramatic claims surrounding its discovery and the difficulty of conducting comprehensive scientific analysis. While the artifact likely represents an interesting example of rapid geological processes rather than evidence of temporal anomalies, it continues to serve as a focal point for debates about geological dating methods and the reliability of contextual evidence in archaeology. 3. The Fuente Magna Bowl. Location: Bolivia. In the highlands of Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, an ancient stone bowl was discovered that bears inscriptions in scripts that shouldn't exist in pre-Columbian America. The Fuente Magna bowl, named after the family that found it, contains what appear to be cuneiform and Proto-Sumerian writings alongside symbols that resemble ancient Mediterranean scripts. This artifact challenges fundamental assumptions about ancient transoceanic contact and suggests the possibility of Old World civilizations reaching South America thousands of years before Columbus. The bowl was discovered in the 1950s by a member of the Fuente family while working in fields near Lake Titicaca. Initially dismissed as a curious archaeological specimen, the bowl's true significance wasn't recognized until decades later, when researchers began systematic analysis of its inscriptions. The artifact remained in private hands for many years before being brought to the attention of international scholars specializing in ancient scripts and transoceanic contact theories. The Fuente Magna bowl is carved from a single piece of stone and measures approximately 20 centimeters in diameter. The vessel's interior and exterior surfaces are covered with complex inscriptions that include what appear to be cuneiform characters, Proto-Sumerian symbols, and various other markings that researchers have attempted to connect to ancient Mediterranean and Middle Eastern writing systems. The most remarkable aspect of the bowl is the apparent presence of genuine cuneiform script, the wedge-shaped writing system developed in ancient Mesopotamia around 3200 BCE. Several researchers have claimed to identify specific cuneiform characters and even attempted translations of portions of the text. If authentic, this would represent the only known example of cuneiform writing found in the Americas. In addition to the cuneiform-like characters, the bowl contains other symbols that researchers have attempted to connect to various ancient writing systems. Some markings appear similar to Proto-Sumerian pictographs, while others have been compared to ancient Mediterranean scripts including Linear A and early Phoenician alphabets. The diversity of script types represented on a single artifact has made interpretation particularly challenging. The inscriptions appear to have been carved using sophisticated tools and techniques that demonstrate considerable skill in stoneworking. The depth and precision of the characters suggest that whoever created the bowl possessed advanced knowledge of stone carving and possibly specialized tools designed for creating fine, detailed work. The overall quality of the craftsmanship rivals the finest examples of ancient stone carving found anywhere in the world. Analysis of the stone material has revealed that the bowl was carved from a type of sandstone that occurs naturally in the Lake Titicaca region, suggesting local manufacture rather than importation from distant sources. However, the techniques used in its creation and the scripts employed in its decoration seem inconsistent with known pre-Columbian American traditions. The archaeological context of the bowl's discovery has proven problematic for establishing its authenticity and age. The artifact was found by farmers working in fields rather than through systematic archaeological excavation, making it impossible to establish clear stratigraphic associations or dating evidence. This lack of controlled discovery context has made the bowl's authentication particularly challenging. Mainstream archaeological opinion has generally been skeptical of the Fuente Magna bowl's authenticity, with many researchers suspecting that it represents either a modern fake or a genuine ancient artifact that has been misinterpreted. Critics point to the lack of controlled archaeological context, the unlikely combination of script types, and the absence of other similar artifacts in the region as evidence against the bowl's authenticity. However, detailed analysis of the inscriptions has revealed characteristics that supporters argue would be extremely difficult to fake convincingly. The cuneiform characters show understanding of proper formation techniques and include details that would require extensive knowledge of ancient Mesopotamian writing systems. The integration of different script types suggests either genuine ancient knowledge or incredibly sophisticated modern forgery. Proponents of the bowl's authenticity argue that it represents evidence of ancient transoceanic contact between Old World civilizations and pre-Columbian America. According to this interpretation, the bowl was created by visitors from the ancient Middle East who reached South America thousands of years ago and left behind this evidence of their presence. This theory is supported by other controversial artifacts and archaeological evidence from the region, including the Pocochia monolith, another stone carving that allegedly contains ancient scripts from the Old World. Proponents argue that these artifacts represent part of a larger pattern of evidence for ancient transoceanic contact that has been overlooked or suppressed by mainstream archaeology. Alternative explanations for the bowl include the possibility that it represents an unknown indigenous writing system that coincidentally resembles Old World scripts, or that it was created by post-Columbian visitors who possessed knowledge of ancient scripts and created the bowl as some form of commemoration or record. Recent efforts to resolve the Fuente Magna controversy have included detailed photographic documentation, digital analysis of the inscriptions, and attempts to locate additional similar artifacts in the region. However, definitive authentication remains elusive due to the lack of controlled archaeological context and the difficulty of applying standard dating techniques to stone artifacts without organic inclusions. The mystery of the Fuente Magna bowl persists because it presents what appears to be convincing evidence for an extraordinary claim: the presence of Old World writing systems in pre-Columbian America. Whether the artifact represents genuine evidence of ancient transoceanic contact, an elaborate modern hoax, or something else entirely, it continues to challenge assumptions about the isolation of ancient American civilizations and the possibility of unknown historical connections between distant cultures. 4. The Aiud aluminum wedge. Location: Aiud, Romania. In 1974, workers excavating along the banks of the Mureș River near the Romanian city of Aiud made a discovery that would become one of the most controversial archaeological finds of the modern era. Buried approximately 10 meters beneath the surface, alongside fossilized mastodon bones dating to approximately 20,000 years ago, they found a wedge-shaped aluminum object that shouldn't have existed for tens of thousands of years. The Aiud aluminum wedge, as it came to be known, presents a temporal impossibility that challenges either our understanding of ancient technology or the reliability of geological dating methods. The discovery was made during routine construction work when heavy machinery uncovered what appeared to be fossilized remains buried in ancient sediment layers. The excavation team included professional archaeologists who carefully documented the find and noted the stratigraphic position of all recovered materials. Among the expected paleontological specimens, the aluminum wedge stood out as completely anomalous. The object measures approximately 20 centimeters in length, 12.5 centimeters in width, and 7 centimeters in thickness. It has a complex shape with a rectangular base, rounded edges, and what appears to be a cylindrical cavity or socket in one end. The surface shows signs of oxidation and corrosion consistent with prolonged burial, yet the metal itself remains structurally intact and clearly identifiable as aluminum. The metallurgical analysis of the wedge has revealed composition that is consistent with aluminum alloy containing small percentages of copper, zinc, lead, and other trace elements. This type of aluminum alloy is typical of modern industrial production and requires sophisticated refining processes that weren't developed until the 19th century. The presence of such refined aluminum in a context supposedly dating to 20,000 years ago creates an obvious temporal impossibility. The archaeological context of the discovery has been the subject of intense scrutiny and debate. The object was reportedly found in direct association with mastodon fossils in undisturbed sediment layers that showed clear stratigraphic integrity. If this context is accurate, it would place the aluminum wedge in the Pleistocene epoch, approximately 20,000 years before the development of aluminum refining technology. The shape and apparent function of the wedge have prompted various theories about its original purpose. Some researchers have suggested that it resembles components from aircraft landing gear or industrial machinery, leading to speculation about its possible origin as part of modern equipment that somehow became buried in ancient sediments. The precision of its construction and the complexity of its form suggest manufactured origin rather than natural formation. Chemical analysis has revealed surface oxidation patterns that proponents argue are consistent with prolonged burial in the specific soil conditions found at the discovery site. The degree of corrosion and the type of oxidation products found on the surface have been cited as evidence that the object has indeed been buried for an extended period, though estimates of burial duration remain highly disputed. Mainstream scientific opinion has generally dismissed the Aiud aluminum wedge as either a modern intrusion or a misrepresented discovery. According to conventional explanations, the object most likely represents modern debris that became buried through natural processes such as flooding, construction activity, or deliberate burial. The association with mastodon bones is explained as coincidental juxtaposition rather than contemporaneous deposition. The possibility of stratigraphic mixing due to geological processes has been proposed as an explanation for the apparent association between the aluminum wedge and ancient fossils. River environments where the discovery was made are particularly susceptible to erosion, redeposition, and mixing of materials from different time periods. This could create false associations between modern objects and ancient remains. However, supporters of the wedge's anomalous nature argue that conventional explanations fail to account for all aspects of the discovery. They point to the documented archaeological context, the professional involvement of trained excavators, and the apparent degree of corrosion as evidence that the object has indeed been buried for an extended period in the reported stratigraphic position. The aluminum composition has been cited by proponents as evidence against modern origin, arguing that the specific alloy composition and trace element patterns are inconsistent with 20th century aluminum production. However, metallurgists have generally disputed these claims, arguing that the composition falls within the range of modern aluminum alloys and shows no characteristics that would require ancient or unknown production methods. Alternative theories about the AIUD aluminum wedge range from natural formation processes to evidence of ancient advanced technology. Some researchers have proposed that the object could represent a natural aluminum formation created through unusual geological processes, though such formations would be extremely rare, and the object's clearly manufactured appearance makes this explanation unlikely. More speculative theories suggest that the wedge represents evidence of ancient technological civilizations that possessed aluminum refining capabilities, or even extraterrestrial visitation. Proponents of these theories argue that conventional archaeological and geological frameworks are inadequate to explain anomalous discoveries, and that such artifacts represent evidence of unknown historical events or technological capabilities. Recent attempts to resolve the controversy have been hampered by limited access to the artifact and restrictions on additional testing. The wedge is housed in a Romanian museum where it has been subject to limited scientific investigation. This has prevented comprehensive analysis that might definitively resolve questions about its origin and age. The mystery of the AIUD aluminum wedge persists because it represents a clear temporal impossibility if the reported discovery context is accurate. The object's aluminum composition and apparent industrial manufacture seem incompatible with its alleged geological age, creating a puzzle that challenges either archaeological methodology or our understanding of technological development. Until additional evidence emerges to resolve these contradictions, the wedge will remain one of archaeology's most controversial out-of-place artifacts. 5. The Saqqara bird. Location: Saqqara, Egypt. In a storage vault beneath the Egyptian Museum in Cairo sits a small wooden artifact that has sparked decades of debate about ancient Egyptian technological capabilities. The Saqqara bird, discovered in 1898 in a tomb at the Saqqara necropolis, appears to be a model aircraft complete with aerodynamically sophisticated design features that seem impossible for ancient Egyptian craftsmen to have conceived without understanding the principles of flight. The artifact was initially cataloged as a simple bird model among thousands of similar objects found in Egyptian tombs, where wooden animal figures served religious and ceremonial purposes. It remained largely unnoticed until 1969, when Egyptologist Dr. Khalil Masiha recognized aerodynamic features that seemed inconsistent with simple bird representation and brought the object to international attention as potentially representing evidence of ancient flight technology. The Saqqara bird measures approximately 14 centimeters in length with a wingspan of 18 centimeters and weighs about 39 grams. It is carved from sycamore wood and shows clear evidence of careful craftsmanship and attention to aerodynamic detail. Unlike typical Egyptian bird models, which show clear avian characteristics such as legs, claws, and detailed plumage, the Saqqara bird displays features that seem more consistent with aircraft design. The most remarkable aspect of the artifact is its aerodynamic sophistication. The wings show careful attention to airfoil shape with subtle curves that create lift-generating profiles similar to those found in modern aircraft design. The body is streamlined with a pronounced longitudinal ridge that would provide stability during flight. Most intriguingly, the tail consists of a single vertical fin rather than the horizontal tail configuration typical of birds. The proportions and weight distribution of the Saqqara bird have been analyzed by aeronautical engineers who have noted characteristics consistent with glider design. The center of gravity appears to be positioned for stable flight, while the wing loading and aspect ratio fall within ranges that would allow the model to glide effectively if launched properly. These characteristics seem unlikely to occur accidentally in a simple decorative object. The construction technique used to create the Saqqara bird demonstrates considerable skill and understanding of three-dimensional form. The subtle curves and precise proportions required to achieve its aerodynamic characteristics would have demanded careful planning and possibly multiple iterations to perfect. This level of sophistication suggests either remarkable intuitive understanding of flight principles or actual knowledge of aerodynamic design. Testing of replica models based on the Saqqara bird has yielded mixed but intriguing results. Some experiments have demonstrated that properly balanced copies can indeed achieve stable gliding flight when launched from appropriate heights. However, the original artifact would require the addition of weight or stabilizing features to achieve optimal flight characteristics, leading to speculation about missing components. The archaeological context of the discovery provides little definitive information about the artifact's purpose or significance. The tomb where it was found contained typical Egyptian burial goods and religious objects, with no obvious connection to flight or aviation themes. The bird was found alongside other wooden animal models that show conventional Egyptian artistic characteristics. Dating of the Saqqara bird has been established through archaeological context and stylistic analysis, placing its creation during the Ptolemaic period, approximately 200 BCE. This date places the artifact well within the historical period when Egyptian civilization was in contact with Greek and Roman cultures, raising questions about possible technological influences from other Mediterranean civilizations. Mainstream Egyptological interpretation views the Saqqara bird as an artistic representation of a bird, possibly a falcon or other species significant in Egyptian religious symbolism. The unusual features that have been interpreted as aerodynamic are explained as artistic stylization or damage that has altered the object's original appearance. According to this view, any resemblance to aircraft design is purely coincidental. However, several aspects of the artifact challenge conventional interpretation. The deliberate departure from typical Egyptian bird model characteristics suggests intentional design choices rather than artistic stylization. The sophisticated aerodynamic features seem unlikely to result from accidental artistic decisions, particularly given the level of skill required to achieve such effects. The absence of typical avian features such as legs and detailed plumage has been cited as evidence that the Saqqara bird was intended to represent something other than a living bird. The streamlined body design and aircraft-like proportions suggest that the creator may have been attempting to model a flying object rather than a biological creature. Alternative theories about the Saqqara bird range from evidence of ancient understanding of flight principles to representations of divine vehicles described in Egyptian religious texts. Some researchers propose that ancient Egyptians possessed theoretical knowledge of aerodynamics that they incorporated into religious or ceremonial objects without developing practical flight technology. More speculative interpretations suggest that the Saqqara bird represents evidence of actual ancient flight technology, either developed by Egyptian civilization or introduced through contact with other advanced cultures. Proponents of these theories point to descriptions of flying vehicles in ancient texts and argue that such artifacts represent physical evidence of otherwise lost technological capabilities. Recent research has attempted to resolve the controversy through detailed aerodynamic analysis and historical investigation. Computer modeling of the bird's flight characteristics has confirmed its aerodynamic sophistication while revealing the precision required to achieve such effects. However, whether this sophistication represents intentional design or remarkable coincidence remains disputed. The mystery of the Saqqara bird endures because it presents clear evidence of aerodynamic sophistication in an ancient artifact, yet no contextual evidence for ancient flight technology. Whether the object represents remarkable artistic intuition, lost technological knowledge, or something else entirely, it continues to challenge assumptions about ancient Egyptian capabilities and the development of human understanding of flight principles. 6. The Khoso artifact. Location: Coso Mountains, California, USA. In the remote Coso Mountains of California, three rock collectors made a discovery in 1961 that would become one of the most controversial out-of-place artifacts in American archaeology. What appeared to be an ordinary geode, collected for its potential crystal content, revealed upon opening what looked like a modern spark plug embedded in rock supposedly millions of years old. The Coso artifact, as it became known, represents either an impossible temporal anomaly or a remarkable example of how modern objects can become incorporated into geological formations. The discovery was made by Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Meixel while collecting specimens in the Coso Mountains near Olancha, California. The trio was searching for geodes and interesting mineral specimens when they found what appeared to be a typical geode among the desert rocks. It wasn't until they attempted to cut open the specimen back at their shop that they discovered its unusual contents. When the geode was cut in half, it revealed not the expected crystal formations, but what appeared to be a manufactured object with clearly artificial characteristics. The central component resembled a modern spark plug, complete with a threaded metal core, ceramic insulator, and corroded metal housing. Surrounding this central object was a matrix of what appeared to be hardened clay or mineral deposits. The object within the geode measured approximately 13 millimeters in diameter and appeared to consist of multiple components typical of 20th century spark plug design. The central core showed threading consistent with standard automotive spark plug specifications, while the surrounding ceramic material displayed the characteristic white color and texture of spark plug insulators. The outer metal housing showed advanced corrosion, but retained recognizable structural features. X-ray analysis of the unopened portion of the geode revealed additional details about the embedded object's structure. The radiograph showed clear evidence of manufactured components, including what appeared to be a spring mechanism and threaded elements that matched contemporary spark plug design. The precision and consistency of these features seemed incompatible with natural formation processes. The geological context claimed for the Coso artifact has been the source of its controversial status. Proponents argue that the geode was found in rock formations dating to the Pliocene epoch, approximately 500,000 years old, based on the geological characteristics of the area where it was discovered. If accurate, this would place a modern manufactured object in a temporal context that makes its existence impossible. The formation process that created the geode-like encasement has been subject to considerable speculation and analysis. Proponents argue that the mineral matrix surrounding the spark plug shows characteristics consistent with gradual formation over geological time periods. The hardness and integration of the surrounding material suggest formation processes that would require thousands or millions of years to complete. However, geological analysis of the specimen has revealed characteristics that challenge claims about its great antiquity. The mineral composition and formation patterns are consistent with relatively rapid concretion formation under appropriate chemical conditions. Such formations can occur within decades rather than millennia under the right environmental circumstances. Mainstream scientific opinion has generally dismissed the Coso artifact as a misidentified modern object that became encased in mineral deposits through natural processes operating over much shorter time periods than claimed. The spark plug likely came from automotive equipment used in the area during mining or recreational activities, and subsequently became mineralized through contact with mineral-rich groundwater. The identification of the central object as a 1920s champion spark plug by automotive historians has provided strong evidence for the artifact's modern origin. The specific design features, threading patterns, and component configurations match known spark plug designs from that era, suggesting that the object became lost or discarded in the desert environment where it was later found. However, supporters of the artifact's anomalous nature argue that conventional explanations fail to account for the degree of mineralization and the apparent integration of the spark plug with its surrounding matrix. They contend that the formation of such a complete encasement would require much longer time periods than conventional geology acknowledges. The possibility of accelerated mineralization under specific environmental conditions has been proposed as a compromise explanation that accounts for both the apparent modern origin of the central object and the degree of encasement observed. Desert environments with high mineral content in groundwater can indeed produce rapid concretion formation around foreign objects. Alternative theories about the Koso artifact range from evidence of time travel or temporal anomalies to proof of ancient technological civilizations. Some proponents argue that the artifact represents evidence that conventional geological dating methods are fundamentally flawed and that much shorter timescales apply to geological processes than currently recognized. More extreme interpretations suggest that the artifact represents evidence of extraterrestrial visitation or unknown technological capabilities. According to these theories, the spark plug-like object may not be of terrestrial origin at all, but rather represents technology from unknown sources that became embedded in terrestrial rock formations. Recent attempts to resolve the Koso artifact controversy have been hampered by the limited availability of the specimen for scientific analysis. The artifact remains in private hands, making comprehensive geological and radiometric dating studies difficult to conduct. This has allowed speculation to continue while preventing definitive scientific resolution. The mystery of the Koso artifact persists primarily due to the dramatic claims surrounding its discovery and the difficulty of conducting thorough scientific investigation. While the most probable explanation involves a 1920s spark plug that became mineralized through natural geological processes operating over decades rather than millennia, the artifact continues to serve as a focal point for debates about geological dating methods and the possibility of temporal anomalies in the archaeological record. 7. The genetic disk. Location: Colombia. Deep in the mountains of Colombia, in a region rich with pre-Columbian archaeological sites, was discovered one of the most puzzling artifacts ever found in South America. The genetic disk, a circular stone carving approximately 27 centimeters in diameter, bears intricate designs that appear to depict biological processes and genetic structures with accuracy that seems impossible for ancient craftsmen without microscopic viewing capabilities. The disk challenges our understanding of ancient knowledge about biological reproduction and cellular structures. The discovery of the genetic disk is shrouded in mystery, with limited documentation about its exact find spot and archaeological context. The artifact reportedly came to light through local collectors in the region around Bogotá, though the specific location and circumstances of its discovery remain unclear. This lack of controlled archaeological context has made authentication and dating of the disk particularly challenging. The disk is carved from lyddite, a type of metamorphic rock, and shows evidence of sophisticated stoneworking techniques. The surface is covered with hundreds of intricate designs arranged in concentric circles and organized into distinct sections that appear to represent different aspects of biological processes. The precision and detail of the carving demonstrate remarkable skill and planning in the artifact's creation. What makes the genetic disk truly extraordinary is the apparent accuracy of its biological representations. Many of the carved symbols appear to depict cellular structures, reproductive processes, and what some researchers interpret as chromosomal and genetic information. The level of detail includes representations that seem to show sperm cells, egg cells, embryonic development stages, and even what appear to be DNA-like spiral structures. The biological accuracy of many representations is particularly puzzling, given that microscopic observation capabilities weren't available to pre-Columbian civilizations. Some carved figures appear to show sperm cells with remarkable accuracy, including the characteristic head and tail structures that are only visible under microscopic magnification. Similarly, representations of embryonic development appear to follow scientifically accurate sequences. The organization of the disk's content suggests systematic knowledge rather than random artistic decoration. Different sections appear to be devoted to specific aspects of reproduction and development, with clear progression patterns that mirror scientific understanding of biological processes. This systematic approach suggests that whoever created the disk possessed organized knowledge about reproduction and development. Analysis of the carving techniques has revealed that the disk was created using sophisticated stoneworking methods that allowed for extremely fine detail work. The precision required to create such minute and accurate biological representations would have demanded specialized tools and considerable expertise in stone carving. The consistency of execution throughout the disk suggests systematic planning and possibly multiple skilled craftsmen. The cultural context of the genetic disk remains unclear due to the lack of controlled archaeological discovery. Colombia has a rich history of pre-Columbian civilizations, including the Muisca, Tirona, and other groups known for sophisticated artwork and astronomical knowledge. However, none of these known cultures have left evidence of the detailed biological knowledge apparently represented in the disk. Mainstream archaeological interpretation has generally been skeptical of claims about the disk's biological accuracy, arguing that the symbols represent conventional pre-Columbian artistic motifs that have been misinterpreted by modern observers seeking to find scientific content. According to this view, the apparent biological accuracy results from pattern-seeking behavior rather than genuine ancient knowledge of microscopic structures. However, detailed analysis of specific symbols has revealed correspondences with biological structures that seem too precise to be explained by coincidence. The accuracy of proportions, the correct representation of cellular features, and the systematic organization of content suggest either remarkable intuitive understanding or actual knowledge of biological processes. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the disk's apparent biological knowledge. Some researchers suggest that ancient peoples possessed more sophisticated understanding of reproduction and development than generally recognized, possibly gained through careful observation and systematic study over many generations. Others propose that the disk represents knowledge gained through unknown means or preserved from more advanced earlier civilizations. More speculative interpretations suggest that the genetic disk represents evidence of contact with advanced civilizations or even extraterrestrial sources. Proponents of these theories argue that the level of biological accuracy demonstrated in the disk exceeds what would be possible through unaided observation and suggests access to knowledge or technology beyond what pre-Columbian cultures possessed. The mystery of the genetic disk endures because it appears to represent detailed knowledge of biological processes that shouldn't have been available to ancient civilizations. Whether the artifact represents remarkable ancient scientific understanding, misinterpreted artistic symbolism, or evidence of unknown knowledge sources, it continues to challenge assumptions about the limits of pre-Columbian scientific achievement. 8. The ancient map of Antarctica. Location: unknown origin. Among the most controversial artifacts in the history of cartography is a collection of medieval and Renaissance maps that appear to show the coastline of Antarctica centuries before the continent was officially discovered. These maps, including the famous Piri Reis map of 1513 and the Orontius Phineus map of 1531, display geographical knowledge that seems impossible for their time period, suggesting either unknown exploration capabilities or access to much more ancient geographical information. The most famous of these anomalous maps is the Piri Reis map, created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. The map came to public attention in 1929 when it was discovered in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul during renovation work. The map shows portions of the Atlantic Ocean, the coasts of Europe, Africa, and South America, and what appears to be part of the Antarctic coastline, complete with geographical features that weren't supposed to be known until modern times. The Piri Reis map is drawn on gazelle skin and measures approximately 90 by 65 centimeters. It represents a compilation of various sources, as Piri Reis himself noted in inscriptions on the map that he used about 20 different charts and maps as sources, including some that allegedly dated to the time of Alexander the Great. The map demonstrates sophisticated cartographic knowledge and techniques that rival contemporary European mapping capabilities. What makes the Piri Reis map controversial is its apparent depiction of the Antarctic coastline beneath the ice sheet. The southern portion of the map shows land masses that correspond remarkably well with the actual coastline of Antarctica, as revealed by modern seismic surveys. This correspondence includes bays, headlands, and island chains that match the underlying topography of the continent. The accuracy of the Antarctic representation is particularly puzzling because Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, more than 300 years after the Piri Reis map was created. Moreover, the coastline shown on the map appears to represent the continent as it would look without its ice covering, information that wasn't available until seismic mapping revealed the underlying topography in the 20th century. Similar Antarctic representations appear on other early maps, including the Orontius Phineus map of 1531, which shows an even more detailed representation of Antarctica, complete with rivers, mountains, and coastal features. The Phineas map depicts the continent with remarkable accuracy in terms of size, shape, and geographical features, despite being created centuries before Antarctic exploration. The cartographic techniques employed in these maps demonstrate sophisticated understanding of projection methods and geographical representation. The Piri Reis map uses a projection system that accurately represents distances and directions across the Atlantic Ocean, suggesting advanced mathematical knowledge and surveying capabilities. The precision required to create such accurate maps would have demanded extensive geographical data and sophisticated calculation methods. Analysis of the source materials mentioned by Piri Reis has revealed that he had access to maps and charts from various periods and cultures, including Greek, Arabic, and possibly much earlier sources. The admiral specifically mentions using ancient maps that were already centuries old when he compiled his chart, raising questions about the ultimate source of the geographical information. Mainstream cartographic interpretation argues that the apparent Antarctic coastlines on these early maps represent either misidentified land masses or artistic speculation rather than actual geographical knowledge. According to conventional explanations, medieval cartographers often filled in unknown areas with hypothetical land masses based on theoretical geographical principles rather than actual exploration data. The Terra Australis theory, which proposed the existence of a large southern continent to balance the land masses of the northern hemisphere, provides a conventional explanation for Antarctic-like representations on early maps. Medieval and Renaissance cartographers, following classical geographical theories, often included large southern continents on their maps as theoretical necessities rather than based on actual geographical knowledge. However, the specific accuracy of coastline details on maps like the Piri Reis chart challenges purely theoretical explanations. The correspondence between mapped features and actual Antarctic topography seems too precise to result from geographical speculation alone. The inclusion of inland features such as rivers and mountain ranges suggests access to detailed exploration data rather than theoretical knowledge. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the apparent advanced geographical knowledge displayed in these maps. Some researchers suggest that the maps preserve geographical information from much earlier periods when sea levels were lower and Antarctic ice coverage was reduced, allowing ancient civilizations to explore and map the continent. More speculative theories propose that the maps represent evidence of advanced ancient civilizations with sophisticated exploration capabilities, or even extraterrestrial sources of geographical information. Proponents of these theories argue that the accuracy of the geographical data exceeds what would have been possible through conventional exploration methods available to ancient or medieval civilizations. The question of how such accurate geographical information could have been obtained and preserved over centuries remains central to the mystery. The maps would require not only extensive exploration of Antarctic regions, but also sophisticated surveying techniques and mathematical methods for accurately representing geographical data in map form. Recent research using satellite imagery and computer analysis has provided new tools for comparing early maps with actual geographical features. These studies have confirmed some correspondences between mapped features and real geographical elements, while revealing discrepancies that challenge claims about perfect accuracy. The results suggest that while the maps contain surprisingly accurate information, they also include errors and artistic elements that complicate interpretation. The mystery of the ancient Antarctic maps persists because they appear to contain geographical knowledge that exceeds the exploration capabilities typically attributed to their historical periods. Whether they represent preserved ancient knowledge, remarkable cartographic intuition, or misinterpreted geographical speculation, these maps continue to challenge assumptions about the development of geographical knowledge and the extent of ancient exploration capabilities. 9. The Horned Skulls of Sayre. Location: Sayre, Pennsylvania, USA. In the hills of Bradford County, Pennsylvania, near the small town of Sayre, archaeologists in the 1880s made a discovery that would challenge conventional understanding of human evolution and variation. The excavation of a Native American burial mound revealed a collection of human skulls that possessed anatomical features unlike any known human population, horn-like protrusions extending from the forehead area. The horned skulls of Sayre represent one of the most controversial anthropological discoveries in American archaeology, raising questions about human diversity, the reliability of historical accounts, and the possibility of unknown human variants. The discovery was made during the period of intense archaeological activity in the late 19th century, when many Native American burial sites were being excavated across the United States. The Sayre site was investigated by a team that included Dr. A. Donahue, Pennsylvania's state historian, Dr. A. B. Skinner of the American Investigating Museum, and Professor W. K. Moorhead of Phillips Academy. The professional credentials of the investigators lent credibility to their extraordinary claims. The excavation reportedly uncovered a burial mound containing the remains of 68 individuals, most of whom showed typical Native American skeletal characteristics. However, among these remains were several skulls that displayed highly unusual anatomical features, including horn-like protrusions approximately 2 inches long, extending from the frontal bone area just above the temples. The horns appeared to be genuine bone formations rather than artificial modifications or decorative additions. The skulls showing these anomalous features were reportedly larger than typical human skulls, with some measuring up to 8 inches in length compared to the normal range of 6 to 7 inches. The overall bone structure appeared robust and well-developed, suggesting that the individuals had lived healthy lives despite their unusual anatomical characteristics. The dental remains showed normal human characteristics without any unusual features. Contemporary accounts described the horn-like protrusions as genuine bone formations that appeared to be natural anatomical features rather than pathological conditions or artificial modifications. The horns were reportedly symmetrical and positioned in locations that would be consistent with natural bone development patterns. The surface characteristics and integration with surrounding bone tissue suggested normal bone formation processes. The initial response to the discovery was one of intense scientific interest, with plans made for detailed study and preservation of the specimens. The skulls were reportedly sent to the American Investigating Museum for further analysis and documentation. However, the fate of these crucial specimens has become part of the mystery surrounding the discovery. According to various accounts, the skulls disappeared from the museum collection under mysterious circumstances, with some reports suggesting they were deliberately removed or destroyed to suppress evidence that contradicted established anthropological theories. The loss of the physical specimens has made subsequent verification of the discovery's claims impossible, relegating the entire affair to historical accounts rather than verifiable scientific evidence. The anatomical implications of the reported features have been subject to considerable debate and speculation. If genuine, the horned skulls would represent either an unknown variant of human anatomy or evidence of a distinct human population with unusual characteristics. The size and robusticity of the skulls have led some researchers to speculate about connections to legendary accounts of giant human populations. Mainstream anthropological opinion has generally been skeptical of the Sayre skull discovery, citing the lack of physical evidence and the extraordinary nature of the claims. Many researchers suspect that the reports represent either misidentified pathological conditions, hoax artifacts, or exaggerated accounts of normal anatomical variations. The disappearance of the specimens is often cited as evidence that they were either fabricated or grossly misrepresented. However, the professional credentials of the original investigators and the detailed contemporary accounts suggest that something unusual was indeed discovered at the Sayre site. The specific anatomical descriptions and the consistency of reports from multiple sources indicate that whatever was found represented a genuine anatomical anomaly rather than simple misidentification. The possibility that the skulls represented pathological conditions, such as Paget's disease or other bone disorders, has been proposed as an explanation for the unusual features. Certain diseases can cause abnormal bone growth patterns that might produce horn-like protrusions. However, the reported symmetry and positioning of the features seem inconsistent with typical pathological presentations. Alternative explanations for the horned skulls range from unknown genetic variations to evidence of distinct human populations that have been lost to history. Some researchers propose that the skulls represent evidence of greater human diversity in prehistoric America than currently recognized, possibly including populations with unique anatomical characteristics that haven't been preserved in the modern gene pool. More speculative theories suggest connections to legendary accounts of horned beings found in various cultural traditions around the world. Some researchers argue that the Sayre skulls provide physical evidence for mythological accounts that may have been based on encounters with actual human populations possessing unusual anatomical features. The mystery of the horned skulls of Sayre persists because the physical evidence necessary to resolve the controversy has been lost, leaving only historical accounts and contemporary reports. Whether the skulls represented genuine anatomical anomalies, pathological conditions, or misidentified normal variations, their disappearance has prevented definitive scientific evaluation. Until similar specimens are discovered and properly preserved for study, the Sayre skulls will remain one of American archaeology's most intriguing unsolved mysteries. These 9 mysterious artifacts demonstrate the profound challenges that anomalous discoveries pose to our understanding of human history and technological development. From Viking swords that display impossible metallurgy to maps that show geographical knowledge centuries ahead of their time, each artifact forces us to confront the limitations of conventional historical frameworks. The recurring themes that emerge from these discoveries, advanced metallurgy, impossible temporal contexts, sophisticated knowledge systems, and anatomical anomalies, suggest that our understanding of ancient capabilities may be far more incomplete than we recognize. Whether these artifacts represent lost knowledge, unknown civilizations, misidentified natural phenomena, or something else entirely, they remind us that the material record of human achievement contains mysteries that continue to challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the past. As we continue our exploration of archaeological enigmas, these artifacts serve as reminders that some of history's most important questions may be answered not by grand monuments or extensive sites, but by small, seemingly insignificant objects that carry within them evidence of human achievements we are only beginning to understand. The mystery lies not just in what these artifacts are, but in what they reveal about the gaps in our knowledge and the possibilities that may have been lost to time. Section 3. Unusual burials and remains. Moving from the realm of enigmatic artifacts and impossible structures, we now enter perhaps the most profound category of archaeological mysteries, the human remains themselves. These discoveries challenge not just our understanding of ancient technology or lost civilizations, but our fundamental knowledge of human evolution, migration, and biological diversity. The bones, skulls, and preserved remains we're about to examine represent individuals whose very existence seems to contradict established scientific paradigms. What makes these discoveries particularly compelling is their intimate nature. Unlike stone monuments that might be misinterpreted or artifacts whose origins could be disputed, human remains provide direct biological evidence that demands explanation. When we encounter skeletons in impossible locations, skulls with inexplicable deformities, or populations that don't fit established evolutionary timelines, we're forced to confront the possibility that our understanding of human history is far more incomplete than we've assumed. The 7 cases we'll explore in this section span the globe and challenge different aspects of anthropological orthodoxy. Some involve populations that appear in locations where humans supposedly never lived. Others display anatomical characteristics that don't match any known human group. Still others suggest interactions between different human species that official science claims never occurred. Each discovery represents not just an individual mystery, but a window into broader questions about human diversity, evolution, and the complex pathways our species has followed across time and geography. These remains remind us that behind every archaeological puzzle lie real people whose lives, deaths, and physical characteristics tell stories we're still struggling to understand. 1. The skeletons of Roopkund Lake. Location: Uttarakhand, India. High in the Indian Himalayas, at an altitude of over 5,000 meters, lies a glacial lake that holds one of the most macabre and mysterious archaeological discoveries ever made. Roopkund Lake, also known as Skeleton Lake, contains the scattered remains of hundreds of human beings whose presence in this remote and inhospitable location defies easy explanation. The mystery deepens when we consider that these individuals died not once, but apparently in multiple catastrophic events separated by more than 1,000 years. The discovery of human remains at Roopkund Lake dates back to 1942, when a British forest ranger named H.K. Madwal first reported finding numerous human skeletons scattered around the lake's shores. Initially, there was concern that these might be the remains of Japanese soldiers who had died during World War II, while attempting to invade India through the high mountain passes. However, closer examination revealed that the bones were far older than the war. The lake itself sits in a small depression surrounded by steep rocky slopes that are covered by snow for most of the year. During the brief summer months when the snow melts, the receding ice reveals hundreds of human bones scattered across the lake bottom and shores. The preservation is remarkable due to the cold, dry conditions, with many skeletons retaining soft tissue, hair, and even fragments of clothing. What makes the Roopkund skeletons truly mysterious is the sheer number of individuals represented and the apparent catastrophic nature of their deaths. Current estimates suggest that the remains represent between 300 and 800 individuals, making this one of the largest mass death sites ever discovered in such a remote location. The bones show evidence of violent trauma, with many skulls displaying fractures consistent with blunt force impacts from above. Recent DNA analysis has revealed that the Roopkund population is not homogeneous, but represents at least 3 distinct genetic groups with different geographical origins. Some individuals show genetic markers consistent with South Asian populations, while others display Mediterranean ancestry patterns that suggest origins in the Eastern Mediterranean or Crete. This genetic diversity raises profound questions about how people from such distant regions came to die together in this remote Himalayan location. Radiocarbon dating has revealed another layer to the mystery. The deaths did not occur in a single event but span multiple time periods. The earliest deaths date to approximately 800 CE, while the most recent occurred around 1800 CE, indicating that whatever was drawing people to this location continued to claim lives over more than a millennium. This pattern suggests either recurring catastrophes or ongoing activities that regularly prove fatal. The trauma patterns visible on the bones provide clues about the cause of death. Many skulls show circular fractures approximately 8–9 centimeters in diameter, consistent with impacts from large, round objects. The distribution of injuries suggests that the victims were struck from above by objects falling at high velocity. Some researchers have interpreted this evidence as indicating death by large hailstones, possibly during severe Himalayan storms. Local folklore provides an intriguing parallel to the scientific evidence. Traditional stories speak of a pilgrimage to the nearby shrine of Nanda Devi that was struck by divine punishment in the form of a terrible storm. According to these legends, pilgrims who were dancing and celebrating inappropriately during their sacred journey were killed by hailstones as hard as iron that fell from the sky. Mainstream scientific interpretation focuses on natural catastrophes as the explanation for the mass deaths. The high-altitude location is subject to severe weather events, including intense hailstorms that could indeed prove fatal to groups caught in the open. The recurring nature of deaths over many centuries suggests that the location was regularly visited despite its dangers, possibly as part of religious pilgrimages to sacred sites in the region. However, several aspects of the discovery challenge straightforward natural disaster explanations. The presence of individuals with Mediterranean ancestry in such a remote Himalayan location raises questions about the nature of the activities that brought them there. The scale of the deaths and the apparent repeated occurrence of catastrophic events suggest something beyond ordinary weather-related mortality. Alternative theories propose various explanations for the mysterious deaths. Some researchers suggest that the site may have been a trade route where merchants and travelers regularly fell victim to harsh conditions. Others propose that the location served as a ritual site where religious activities resulted in regular casualties. More speculative theories suggest connections to lost civilizations or unknown historical events. The mystery of Roopkund Lake persists because it combines multiple unexplained elements: the massive scale of mortality, the diverse genetic origins of the victims, the recurring nature of catastrophic events, and the remote location that seems unsuitable for large-scale human activity. Until we can better understand what was drawing hundreds of people to this dangerous location over many centuries, the skeletons of Roopkund Lake will remain one of archaeology's most haunting mysteries. 2. The Red Deer Cave People. Location: Yunnan Province, China. In the limestone karst landscape of southern China, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of what may be an entirely unknown branch of the human family tree. The Red Deer Cave People, named after one of the sites where their remains were discovered, represent a population with anatomical characteristics so unusual that they challenge our understanding of human evolution and the timeline of modern human development in Asia. The discovery of the Red Deer Cave people emerged from excavations at two cave sites in Yunnan province, Maludong, Red Deer Cave, and Longlin Cave. International teams of researchers working at these sites between 1989 and 2009 uncovered partial human remains that initially seemed unremarkable. However, detailed analysis revealed anatomical features that didn't match any known human population, either ancient or modern. The remains date to between 14,500 and 11,500 years ago, placing them well within the period when modern humans were already established across most of the globe. This timing makes the unusual characteristics of the Red Deer Cave people particularly puzzling, as such archaic features weren't expected to persist so late in human evolutionary history. The anatomical characteristics that set the Red Deer Cave people apart include a unique combination of archaic and modern features that don't appear in any other known human population. The skulls display thick bone structure, prominent brow ridges, and robust facial features reminiscent of much earlier human species. The brain cases are relatively small compared to modern humans, while the teeth are unusually large and robust. Perhaps most intriguingly, the Red Deer Cave people display some anatomical features that appear to be entirely unique, not matching characteristics found in either modern humans or known archaic human species. The nasal passages, jaw structure, and certain aspects of cranial morphology represent combinations of traits that haven't been documented in any other human population. The discovery raises fundamental questions about human evolution in Asia during the late Pleistocene period. According to conventional models, modern humans had already replaced all archaic human populations in Asia by this time period. The persistence of such archaic characteristics in the Red Deer Cave people suggests either that this replacement was incomplete or that previously unknown evolutionary processes were occurring. Analysis of the archaeological context provides additional mysteries. The sites where the remains were found contain evidence of sophisticated tool use and cultural behaviors typically associated with modern humans. However, some aspects of the material culture seem to reflect influences from much earlier technological traditions, creating a puzzle about the cultural identity of these people. The question of whether the Red Deer Cave people represent a distinct species, a hybrid population, or an isolated group of archaic humans remains hotly debated. Their unique combination of anatomical features doesn't fit neatly into existing taxonomic categories, forcing researchers to consider whether current models of human classification are adequate to describe the full diversity of ancient human populations. Mainstream anthropological interpretation suggests that the Red Deer Cave people represent an isolated population of early modern humans who retained archaic characteristics due to genetic isolation and drift. According to this view, the unusual features result from evolutionary processes operating in small, isolated populations, rather than representing evidence of a distinct species or hybrid population. However, the degree of anatomical distinctiveness challenges simple isolation explanations. The combination of features present in the Red Deer Cave people seems too systematic and pronounced to result from random genetic drift alone. The presence of entirely unique characteristics suggests either unknown evolutionary pressures or possible admixture with previously unknown human populations. Alternative theories propose that the Red Deer Cave people represent evidence of previously unknown complexity in human evolution during the late Pleistocene. Some researchers suggest that multiple human species or subspecies may have coexisted in Asia much longer than previously recognized, with the Red Deer Cave people representing one such survivor population. The mystery of the Red Deer Cave people endures because their very existence challenges fundamental assumptions about human evolutionary history. Whether they represent an isolated modern human population, evidence of late surviving archaic humans, or something else entirely, their discovery forces us to reconsider the complexity and diversity of human populations in prehistoric Asia. 3. The Paracas elongated skulls. Location: Paracas Peninsula, Peru. On the windswept desert peninsula of Paracas in southern Peru, archaeologists have uncovered a collection of human remains that challenge conventional understanding of ancient Andean populations. The elongated skulls found in Paracas burial sites display cranial modifications so extreme that they raise questions about the methods used to achieve such dramatic alterations and the cultural motivations behind these practices. The discovery of the Paracas skulls began with the work of Peruvian archaeologist Julio Tello in the 1920s. Tello's excavations of the Paracas necropolis revealed hundreds of mummified remains wrapped in some of the finest textiles ever discovered in the Americas. Among these burials were numerous individuals whose skulls had been dramatically elongated through artificial cranial modification. The Paracas skulls represent some of the most extreme examples of cranial modification ever documented. While cranial binding practices were common among many ancient cultures worldwide, the Paracas examples show elongation that exceeds anything found elsewhere. Some skulls are nearly 50% longer than typical human proportions, creating head shapes that appear almost alien when compared to normal human anatomy. What makes the Paracas skulls particularly mysterious is not just their extreme elongation, but their increased cranial volume. Unlike typical cranial binding, which reshapes the skull without increasing its capacity, many Paracas skulls show volume increases of up to 25% compared to normal human skulls. This suggests either unknown modification techniques or possibly natural anatomical variations. The modification process that created these dramatic skull shapes would have required techniques far more sophisticated than simple cranial binding. Creating such extreme elongation while maintaining cranial integrity would have demanded advanced knowledge of skull growth patterns and carefully controlled modification procedures applied over many years of childhood development. Analysis of the skulls has revealed additional anatomical anomalies that compound the mystery. Some specimens show unusual suture patterns, different numbers of cranial plates, and bone density variations that don't match typical human anatomy. These features raise questions about whether the observed characteristics result entirely from artificial modification or involve natural anatomical variations. The cultural context of the cranial modifications adds another layer to the mystery. The extreme elongation was clearly practiced by the elite members of Paracas society, as evidenced by the elaborate textiles and grave goods associated with modified skulls. However, the motivations behind such extreme modifications and the specific techniques used remain unknown. Recent DNA analysis of Paracas skulls has yielded results that some researchers claim are inconsistent with known human populations. While these claims remain highly controversial and disputed by mainstream genetics, they have added fuel to speculation about the origins and nature of the Paracas people. Mainstream anthropological interpretation views the Paracas skulls as extreme examples of artificial cranial modification practiced for cultural and social reasons. According to this explanation, the elongated skulls represent status markers or religious symbolism achieved through sophisticated but conventional modification techniques applied during childhood skull development. However, several aspects of the skulls challenge purely artificial modification explanations. The increased cranial volume, unusual anatomical features, and extreme degree of modification seem to exceed what would be achievable through known cranial binding techniques. This has led some researchers to propose that the Paracas people employed unknown modification methods or that natural genetic variations contributed to the observed characteristics. Alternative theories range from evidence of previously unknown human populations to more speculative explanations involving extraterrestrial contact. Some researchers propose that the Paracas skulls represent evidence of a distinct human subspecies, or the remains of individuals with rare genetic conditions that naturally produced elongated skull shapes. The mystery of the Paracas elongated skulls persists because they represent cranial modifications that seem to exceed the capabilities of known artificial techniques while occurring in a cultural context that clearly valued such modifications. Until the specific methods used to create such extreme elongation can be determined and replicated, the Paracas skulls will remain one of archaeology's most intriguing examples of human cranial modification. 4. The 10,000-year-old dwarf skeleton. Location: Flores Island, Indonesia. On the remote Indonesian island of Flores, archaeologists made a discovery that would revolutionize understanding of human evolution and force a complete reconsideration of human diversity in Southeast Asia. The skeleton of a tiny human individual, standing barely over 1 meter tall with a brain capacity smaller than that of modern chimpanzees, challenged every assumption about human development and survival in the region. The discovery occurred in 2003 during excavations at Liangboa Cave on Flores Island. An international team led by Australian and Indonesian researchers was investigating the cave's archaeological deposits when they uncovered the partial skeleton of an adult human individual, unlike anything in the fossil record. The skeleton, designated LB1 and nicknamed the Hobbit, would become one of the most controversial archaeological discoveries of the 21st century. The individual represented by LB1 stood approximately 1.1 meters tall and possessed a brain capacity of only about 400 cubic centimeters, roughly one-third the size of modern human brains and comparable to that of early human ancestors from millions of years ago. Despite this small brain size, the skeleton was associated with sophisticated stone tools and evidence of controlled fire use. What makes the Flores skeleton truly extraordinary is its combination of primitive and derived anatomical features. While the brain size and some skeletal proportions resemble those of much earlier human ancestors, other characteristics are clearly modern. The individual walked fully upright, had human-like hands capable of precision grip, and was associated with cultural behaviors typical of modern humans. The dating of the skeleton and associated archaeological deposits placed this individual at approximately 18,000 years ago, with evidence suggesting that similar populations may have survived until as recently as 12,000 years ago. This timing means that these unusual humans were contemporary with modern human populations and may have coexisted with them in the region. Subsequent excavations revealed additional skeletal remains and teeth from at least 9 individuals, confirming that LB1 was not an isolated case, but represented a population of similarly small-statured humans. The consistency of anatomical features across multiple individuals ruled out pathological explanations and confirmed that this represented a distinct human population. The island context of the discovery adds another dimension to the mystery. Flores Island was never connected to the Asian mainland by land bridges, meaning that any human population would have required seafaring capabilities to reach the island. The presence of sophisticated humans on Flores as early as 700,000 years ago suggests much earlier development of maritime technology than previously recognized. The evolutionary implications of the Flores discovery are profound. If these diminutive humans represent descendants of earlier human species that somehow survived in isolation, they would represent the longest surviving non-modern human population known to science. Alternatively, if they evolved from modern human colonists, they would demonstrate remarkable evolutionary change occurring in a very short time period. Mainstream paleoanthropological interpretation has gradually accepted that the Flores skeletons represent a distinct human species, designated Homo floresiensis, that evolved in isolation on the island. According to this view, early human colonists of the island underwent rapid evolutionary change, leading to dramatic size reduction, a phenomenon known as island dwarfism that has been observed in other mammal species. However, alternative explanations continue to be debated. Some researchers argue that the skeletal remains represent modern humans with pathological conditions, such as microcephaly or cretinism, that resulted in their unusual characteristics. Others propose that the specimens represent previously unknown variants of other human species, rather than descendants of modern humans. The mystery of the Flores skeleton endures because it challenges fundamental assumptions about human evolution and the capabilities of small-brained humans. Whether representing evidence of remarkable evolutionary change, unknown human diversity, or pathological conditions, the discovery forces us to reconsider what we know about human adaptability and survival in island environments. 5. The Lapido Child. Location: Lagar Velho, Portugal. In the limestone valley of Lagar Velho in central Portugal, archaeologists uncovered the burial of a child that would ignite one of the most intense debates in human evolutionary studies. The 24,500-year-old skeleton displays an unusual combination of anatomical features that some researchers interpret as evidence of hybridization between Neanderthals and modern humans, challenging the conventional view of human evolution in Europe. The discovery was made in 1998 during salvage excavations ahead of dam construction in the Lapido Valley. The burial was found in a rock shelter that had been used by prehistoric humans for thousands of years. The careful burial of the child, complete with red ochre staining and grave goods, indicated the importance placed on this individual by their community. The skeleton represents a 4-year-old child whose anatomical features combine characteristics typically associated with both Neanderthals and modern humans. The analysis revealed modern human traits in the skull and teeth, while the postcranial skeleton showed robust proportions and specific anatomical features more typical of Neanderthal populations. What makes the Lapido child particularly significant is the timing of the burial. At 24,500 years old, the skeleton dates to several thousand years after Neanderthals are thought to have become extinct in the region. If the child indeed represents a hybrid individual, it would suggest that Neanderthal populations persisted longer than previously believed, or that hybrid populations survived well after pure Neanderthal populations disappeared. The anatomical analysis has focused on specific features that are considered diagnostic of Neanderthal versus modern human ancestry. The child's leg bones show proportions and robusticity patterns that are more similar to Neanderthals than to contemporary modern humans. The pelvic structure and certain aspects of arm bone morphology also show characteristics intermediate between the two groups. However, the skull and dental features are clearly those of a modern human, showing none of the distinctive Neanderthal cranial characteristics, such as the projecting face, large nose, or distinctive brow ridge formation. This mosaic of features creates a pattern that doesn't match either pure Neanderthal or pure modern human populations. The burial context provides additional evidence for the child's cultural affiliation with modern human populations. The use of red ochre, the careful positioning of the body, and the inclusion of grave goods all reflect practices typical of Upper Paleolithic modern human cultures rather than Neanderthal burial traditions. Mainstream paleoanthropological opinion remains divided about the interpretation of the Lapido child. Some researchers accept the hybrid interpretation, arguing that the unusual combination of anatomical features can only be explained by admixture between Neanderthal and modern human populations. Others contend that the features fall within the range of normal modern human variation. The skeptical interpretation argues that the apparently Neanderthal-like features result from normal population variation among Upper Paleolithic Europeans rather than hybrid ancestry. According to this view, early modern human populations may have been more robust and variable than their later descendants, making some individuals appear more Neanderthal-like without actual hybridization. Recent genetic evidence from other European sites has confirmed that Neanderthal modern human hybridization did occur, lending support to the hybrid interpretation of the Lapido child. However, the specific genetic contribution to this individual cannot be determined without successful DNA extraction, which has not yet been achieved. The mystery of the Lapido child persists because it represents potential evidence for one of the most significant events in human evolutionary history, the biological integration of different human species. Whether the child represents evidence of hybridization or simply normal human variation, the discovery continues to inform debates about human evolution and the fate of Neanderthal populations in Europe. 6. The Lovelock Cave Giants. Location: Nevada, USA. In the high desert of Nevada, near the dried bed of ancient Lovelock Lake, lies a cave that has yielded some of the most controversial human remains ever discovered in North America. The Lovelock Cave excavations of the early 20th century uncovered skeletal remains that appeared to represent unusually tall individuals, leading to decades of speculation about the existence of giant human populations in prehistoric America. The discovery of unusual remains in Lovelock Cave began with mining operations in the early 1900s, when guano miners working in the cave encountered human skeletal materials of apparently exceptional size. Systematic archaeological investigation began in 1912 under the direction of Llewellyn Loud from the University of California, followed by additional excavations in 1924, led by Mark Harrington from the Museum of the American Indian. The excavations revealed extensive evidence of human occupation spanning thousands of years, with layers of artifacts, basketry, and human remains preserved in the dry cave environment. Among these materials were skeletal elements that the excavators claimed represented individuals of exceptional stature, with some estimates suggesting heights of 7 feet or more. The reports of giant skeletons were accompanied by claims of unusual cranial characteristics and robust bone structure that seemed to exceed the normal range of Native American populations. Contemporary accounts describe skulls that were both larger and more robust than typical, with some showing evidence of artificial cranial modification or natural anatomical variations. What makes the Lovelock Cave discoveries controversial is the combination of reported exceptional size with the limited physical evidence available for modern analysis. Many of the original skeletal materials were either lost, destroyed, or dispersed to various institutions, making verification of the extraordinary claims difficult or impossible. The cultural context of the cave provides a rich archaeological record of the region's prehistoric inhabitants. The site was clearly used by Native American groups for thousands of years, with evidence of sophisticated basketry, tool production, and adaptation to the desert environment. However, the relationship between this well-documented occupation and the reported giant individuals remains unclear. Local Paiute traditions include accounts of a race of red-haired giants who lived in the region and were eventually driven out or eliminated by ancestral Paiute populations. These oral histories describe conflicts between normal-sized humans and a population of exceptional size and different physical characteristics, leading some researchers to suggest connections to the archaeological discoveries. Contemporary measurements and documentation from the original excavations provide conflicting evidence about the actual size of the discovered individuals. While some accounts claim exceptional stature, other more careful measurements suggest sizes within the upper range of normal human variation. The lack of complete skeletons makes accurate stature estimation particularly challenging. Mainstream archaeological interpretation of the Lovelock Cave focuses on the well-documented evidence of normal Native American occupation while treating claims of giant individuals with skepticism. Most researchers argue that the size estimates were exaggerated or that the individuals fell within the normal range of human variation. However, the persistence of claims about exceptional size and the cultural traditions of local tribes suggest that something unusual may have been discovered in the cave. Whether this represents actual anatomical anomalies, measurement errors, or cultural interpretations of normal variation remains debated. The mystery of the Lovelock Cave giants persists because the physical evidence necessary to resolve the controversy has largely been lost or dispersed. Without access to the original skeletal materials for modern analysis, claims about exceptional size cannot be definitively verified or refuted, leaving the discovery as one of American archaeology's most persistent legends. 7. The Starchild Skull. Location: Chihuahua, Mexico. In the rugged landscapes of northern Mexico, a discovery was made in the 1930s that would later become one of the most controversial specimens in anomalous archaeology. The Starchild Skull, a partial cranium with unusual anatomical characteristics, has been the subject of intense debate about its origins, species identification, and implications for understanding human diversity and evolution. The skull was reportedly discovered around 1930 in a mine tunnel south of Chihuahua, Mexico, alongside a normal human skull. According to accounts, both skulls were found buried together, suggesting some form of intentional burial or disposal. The unusual skull remained in private hands for decades before being brought to scientific attention in the 1990s. The Starchild skull displays anatomical characteristics that differ significantly from normal human proportions and features. The cranium is unusually shallow and wide, with eye sockets that are larger and positioned differently than in typical human skulls. The bone structure appears more delicate than normal human bone, with unusual thinness in some areas and apparent structural differences throughout. What makes the skull particularly intriguing is its combination of apparently juvenile characteristics with features that suggest full maturity. The size and proportions seem consistent with a child of perhaps 5 years old, yet certain anatomical features suggest full adult development. This combination creates a puzzle about the individual's age at death and developmental pattern. The volume and shape of the skull suggest a brain capacity that would be unusual for a human child of the apparent age. The cranial capacity appears larger than normal for the apparent developmental stage, while the shape differences suggest different brain organization than typically seen in human development. Analysis of the bone composition has revealed unusual characteristics that some researchers claim are inconsistent with normal human bone structure. The bone appears to have different density and composition patterns than typical human skeletal material, though these findings remain disputed by mainstream researchers. DNA analysis attempts have yielded controversial results, with some researchers claiming to have identified genetic sequences that don't match known human, primate, or other terrestrial animal patterns. However, these genetic claims have been heavily criticized by mainstream geneticists who argue that the results likely represent contamination or analysis errors. The discovery context and chain of custody for the Starchild skull have been problematic for scientific authentication. The lack of controlled archaeological excavation, the decades-long gap between discovery and scientific investigation, and the specimen's passage through private hands have all raised questions about its authenticity and provenance. Mainstream scientific opinion has generally been skeptical of claims about the skull's anomalous nature, with most researchers arguing that it represents either a human child with developmental abnormalities or possibly a non-human primate specimen. Conditions such as hydrocephalus could potentially explain some of the unusual characteristics observed. However, proponents of the skull's anomalous nature argue that the combination of features doesn't match any known human pathological condition or non-human primate anatomy. They contend that the skull represents either an unknown human variant or possibly evidence of non-terrestrial origins. The mystery of the Starchild skull persists because it presents anatomical characteristics that resist easy classification within known categories. Whether representing unusual human development, unknown species, or misidentified specimens, the skull continues to generate debate about the limits of human variation and the possibility of unknown biological forms. Having examined the enigmatic remains of ancient peoples themselves, we now turn to perhaps the most tantalizing category of archaeological mysteries: the written records and symbolic systems that our ancestors left behind. These inscriptions, tablets, and carved symbols represent humanity's earliest attempts to preserve knowledge, record events, and communicate across time. Yet many of these ancient writing systems remain as impenetrable today as they were when first discovered, their meanings lost to the passage of millennia. What makes these undeciphered scripts particularly fascinating is their potential to revolutionize our understanding of ancient civilizations. Each unread inscription could contain historical records that rewrite our timelines, scientific knowledge that challenges our assumptions about ancient capabilities, or religious and philosophical insights that illuminate the minds of our predecessors. The tantalizing possibility that these symbols hold profound secrets has driven generations of scholars to dedicate their lives to breaking these ancient codes. The 6 mysterious writing systems we'll explore in this section span continents and millennia, from prehistoric rock art in Scotland to sophisticated manuscripts from medieval Romania. Some appear to be among humanity's earliest attempts at written communication, while others seem impossibly advanced for their supposed time periods. Each presents unique challenges that have frustrated the world's leading linguists, archaeologists, and cryptographers. What unites these diverse scripts is their stubborn resistance to decipherment, despite decades or even centuries of scholarly effort. Unlike successfully decoded ancient languages such as Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, these writing systems seem to operate according to principles we don't yet understand, employ symbols whose meanings elude us, or contain information that doesn't fit our current historical frameworks. 1. The Cockno Stone. Location: West Dunbartonshire, Scotland. In the hills above the Clyde Valley in Scotland lies one of Europe's most extensive collections of prehistoric rock art, yet its meaning remains as mysterious today as when it was first documented over a century ago. The Cockno Stone, a massive rock surface covered with over 90 carved symbols, represents one of the finest examples of Neolithic and Bronze Age petroglyphs in Britain, but the purpose and significance of its intricate designs continue to baffle archaeologists and symbol specialists. The stone was first brought to academic attention in 1896 by the Reverend James Harvey, though local knowledge of the carved rock likely extends back much further. The site consists of a large outcrop of sandstone measuring approximately 13 by 8 meters, its surface covered with an extraordinary array of carved symbols, including cup marks, ring marks, spirals, and more complex geometric patterns that don't appear elsewhere in British rock art. The carvings on the Cockno Stone display a level of complexity and organization that suggests they were created according to some systematic plan rather than as random artistic expression. The symbols are arranged in distinct groups and patterns, with some areas showing dense concentrations of markings while others remain deliberately blank. This organization implies that the stone served some specific purpose that required careful planning and execution. What makes the Kochno stone particularly mysterious is the presence of symbols that don't match typical British prehistoric rock art traditions. While cup and ring marks are common throughout Scotland and northern England, the Kochno stone includes unique symbols such as footprint-like markings, linear arrangements that resemble early forms of writing, and geometric patterns that seem to follow mathematical principles. The dating of the carvings has proven challenging due to the nature of rock art, which leaves few materials suitable for radiocarbon dating. Stylistic analysis suggests that the symbols were created over an extended period, possibly spanning from the Neolithic period around 5,000 years ago through the Bronze Age ending around 2,500 years ago. This extended creation period indicates that the site held lasting significance for prehistoric communities. The astronomical alignments of certain symbol groups have attracted considerable attention from researchers studying ancient sky knowledge. Some arrangements of cup marks appear to correspond to star patterns visible during specific seasons, while linear arrangements may mark significant astronomical events such as solstices or lunar cycles. However, the complexity of the overall pattern suggests purposes beyond simple astronomical observation. Recent analysis using advanced photographic techniques and 3D mapping has revealed previously unnoticed details and relationships between symbol groups. These studies have shown that the carving process involves sophisticated planning, with some symbols clearly positioned in relation to others according to principles we don't yet understand. The precision required to create such complex, interrelated patterns suggests advanced mathematical and geometric knowledge. The cultural context of the Kochno stone remains largely mysterious due to the limited archaeological evidence from the surrounding area. While the region was clearly inhabited during the periods when the carvings were made, no associated structures, artifacts, or burial sites have been found that might illuminate the stone's purpose or the identity of its creators. Mainstream archaeological interpretation views the Kochno stone as a ceremonial or religious site where prehistoric communities gathered for ritual purposes. According to this theory, the symbols represent sacred markings created over many generations, possibly serving as territorial markers, astronomical calendars, or maps of sacred landscapes. The cup and ring marks are interpreted as symbolic representations of concepts we can no longer understand. However, several aspects of the stone challenge conventional ritual site explanations. The mathematical precision of symbol arrangements suggests systematic knowledge that goes beyond simple religious marking. The presence of unique symbols not found elsewhere indicates either local innovation or influence from unknown sources. Most puzzling is the apparent organization of the entire composition, according to principles that seem to follow consistent rules. Alternative theories about the Kochno stone range from prehistoric maps to ancient writing systems. Some researchers propose that the stone represents a form of proto-writing that recorded information about territories, resources, or historical events. Others suggest that the symbols function as astronomical computers that allowed prehistoric peoples to track complex celestial cycles and predict important events. More speculative interpretations suggest that the Kochno stone contains encoded information about prehistoric technology, spiritual beliefs, or even contact with advanced civilizations. Proponents of these theories argue that the complexity and precision of the symbol system exceeds what should be possible for Neolithic and Bronze Age cultures, suggesting either advanced ancient knowledge or influences from unknown sources. The mystery of the Kochno stone persists because it represents a level of symbolic complexity and mathematical precision that challenges assumptions about prehistoric Scottish capabilities. Whether the stone serves as a religious site, astronomical computer, territorial map, or something else entirely, its intricate symbol system continues to resist interpretation despite more than a century of scholarly investigation. 2. The Indus Valley Script. Location: Pakistan and northwest India. Across the vast territories once occupied by the Indus Valley civilization, archaeologists have uncovered thousands of small objects bearing symbols that may represent one of humanity's earliest writing systems. Yet despite nearly a century of intensive study, the Indus Valley script remains completely undeciphered, making it one of archaeology's greatest linguistic mysteries and leaving the history of one of the world's first urban civilizations largely silent. The discovery of the Indus Valley script began with the excavation of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro in the 1920s, when archaeologists first uncovered the extensive remains of a sophisticated Bronze Age civilization that flourished between 2600 and 1900 BCE. Among the artifacts recovered were thousands of small seals, tablets, and pottery fragments bearing short sequences of mysterious symbols that appeared to represent some form of written communication. The script consists of approximately 400 to 600 distinct symbols, though the exact number remains disputed due to uncertainties about which markings represent separate characters versus variations of the same symbol. The symbols appear on various objects including steatite seals, copper tablets, pottery, and metal implements, suggesting that writing was used for multiple purposes within Indus society. What makes the Indus Valley script particularly challenging to decipher is the brevity of most inscriptions. The average text contains only 4 to 5 symbols, with the longest known inscription comprising just 26 symbols. This scarcity of extended text makes it extremely difficult to identify patterns, grammatical structures, or repeated phrases that typically provide entry points for deciphering unknown scripts. The symbols themselves display considerable sophistication and artistic skill, ranging from naturalistic representations of animals and humans to abstract geometric forms and complex composite symbols. Many signs appear to be pictographic, representing objects or concepts directly, while others seem more abstract and may represent sounds, syllables, or grammatical elements. The distribution of symbols across different sites and artifact types suggests that the script was used throughout the Indus Valley region and served various functions within the civilization. Some symbols appear frequently on seals that may have been used for trade and administrative purposes, while others are found primarily on pottery or ritual objects, suggesting specialized uses for different types of texts. The absence of bilingual texts has been a major obstacle to decipherment efforts. Unlike the Rosetta Stone, which provided the key to understanding Egyptian hieroglyphs through parallel texts in known languages, no Indus Valley inscriptions have been found alongside texts in deciphered scripts. This isolation makes it impossible to use comparative methods that have been successful with other ancient writing systems. The relationship between the Indus script and later writing systems of the Indian subcontinent remains unclear and controversial. While some researchers propose evolutionary connections to later scripts like Brahmi, others argue that the Indus civilization's writing tradition died out completely when the civilization collapsed, leaving no descendants in later Indian writing systems. Computational analysis has become increasingly important in Indus script research, with scholars using statistical methods, pattern recognition, and artificial intelligence to search for hidden structures in the symbol sequences. These studies have revealed mathematical properties that suggest the inscriptions do represent a writing system rather than simple pictorial art, but they haven't provided breakthrough insights into the script's actual meaning. Mainstream scholarly opinion accepts that the Indus symbols represent a legitimate writing system used by a literate civilization, though disagreement continues about whether the script is logographic, syllabic, or alphabetic in nature. Most researchers believe that eventual decipherment is possible given sufficient data and appropriate methodological approaches, though progress has been frustratingly slow. However, a minority of scholars argue that the Indus symbols don't represent writing at all, but rather a system of religious or political symbols used for non-linguistic communication. According to this controversial view, the brevity of inscriptions and the lack of clear grammatical patterns indicate that the symbols serve primarily decorative or ritualistic functions rather than recording language. Alternative approaches to understanding the script have included attempts to connect it with various language families, astronomical interpretation of symbol patterns, and proposals that the inscriptions record mathematical or scientific information. Some researchers have claimed successful partial decipherments, though none have gained widespread acceptance among specialists. The mystery of the Indus Valley script endures because it represents the written records of one of humanity's earliest urban civilizations, yet its meaning remains completely inaccessible to modern scholarship. Until this ancient writing system can be deciphered, the Indus Valley civilization will remain largely silent about its history, beliefs, social organization, and ultimate fate. 3. The Tartaria tablets. Location: Transylvania, Romania. In the hills of Transylvania, an archaeological discovery was made that could potentially rewrite the history of writing itself. The Tartaria tablets, three small clay objects bearing symbols that appear to represent writing, were found in circumstances that suggest they may be thousands of years older than the earliest known writing systems from Mesopotamia. If authentic and correctly dated, these tablets would represent humanity's first experiments with written communication. The tablets were discovered in 1961 by Romanian archaeologist Nicolae Vlasa during excavations at the Neolithic site of Tartaria in Alba County. The tablets were found in a ritual pit alongside other artifacts, including clay figurines, shells, and burnt grain, in a context that appeared to be associated with religious or ceremonial activities. The archaeological context initially suggested a date of approximately 5,300 BCE, predating Mesopotamian writing by over 1,000 years. The three tablets are made of unbaked clay and bear symbols that have been impressed or incised into their surfaces. The symbols include various geometric shapes, lines, and more complex markings that some researchers interpret as pictographic representations. The largest tablet contains about 20 symbols arranged in apparent rows, while the smaller tablets bear fewer markings that may represent abbreviated versions of longer texts. What makes the Tartaria tablets controversial is not just their apparent antiquity, but the sophistication of their symbol system. The markings appear to follow organized principles of arrangement and show consistent use of specific symbols that suggest systematic rather than random marking. Some symbols bear striking resemblances to later writing systems from Mesopotamia and the Eastern Mediterranean. The dating controversy surrounding the tablets has been central to debates about their significance. While the original archaeological context suggested great antiquity, subsequent radiocarbon dating has yielded conflicting results, with some tests supporting the early date, while others suggest the tablets may be considerably younger. This uncertainty has made it difficult to establish their true chronological position. Analysis of the clay composition and firing characteristics has revealed that the tablets were made using techniques typical of Neolithic pottery production in the region. The clay appears to be local material, while the manufacturing methods are consistent with other ceramics found at the site. This technical analysis supports the authenticity of the tablets while raising questions about their dating. The symbol system used on the tablets shows both similarities to and differences from early Mesopotamian writing. Some researchers have identified symbols that appear nearly identical to signs used in proto-cuneiform texts, while others are unique to the Tartaria tablets. This pattern suggests either influence from Mesopotamian writing traditions or independent development of similar symbolic concepts. The archaeological context of the discovery has been scrutinized for clues about the tablets' purpose and significance. The ritual pit where they were found contained other objects that suggest ceremonial use, including clay figurines that may represent religious imagery. The association with burnt grain and shells suggests that the tablets may have been part of ritual activities related to agriculture or fertility. Mainstream archaeological opinion remains divided about the Tartaria tablets' significance. Some researchers accept that they represent early experiments with symbolic communication that may have influenced later writing development. Others argue that the tablets represent religious or decorative symbols rather than true writing, with any resemblances to later scripts being coincidental. The possibility that the tablets represent a form of proto-writing has attracted considerable attention from specialists in early writing systems. If the symbols do record language, they would provide unprecedented insights into the development of written communication and the cognitive processes involved in creating writing systems. However, the brevity of the text makes definitive linguistic analysis extremely challenging. Alternative interpretations of the tablets range from accounting records to religious texts to astronomical observations. Some researchers propose that the symbols record economic transactions or territorial claims, while others suggest they contain religious or mythological content. The diversity of proposed interpretations reflects the ambiguity of the symbol system and the lack of clear contextual evidence. Recent technological analysis using advanced imaging and microscopic examination has revealed additional details about the tablet's creation and use. These studies have shown evidence of careful planning and symbol placement and consistent use of specific marking tools, supporting arguments that the tablets represent systematic symbolic communication rather than random decoration. The mystery of the Tartaria tablets persists because they potentially represent the earliest evidence of human writing, yet their meaning, purpose, and even their age remain disputed. Whether they represent revolutionary evidence of early literacy, religious symbols, or something else entirely, the tablets continue to challenge our understanding of when and how humans first developed written communication. 4. The Gosford Glyphs. Location: New South Wales, Australia. On a rocky outcrop in the wilderness north of Sydney, Australia, a collection of carved symbols has sparked one of the most contentious debates in Australian archaeology. The Gosford Glyphs, as they have become known, appear to be Egyptian hieroglyphs carved into local sandstone, complete with cartouches, religious symbols, and what some claim are readable Egyptian texts. The discovery challenges fundamental assumptions about ancient Australian history and the possibility of Old World contact thousands of years before European settlement. The glyphs were first brought to public attention in the 1970s when they were discovered by local residents exploring the bushland near Gosford. The site consists of two main panels of carved symbols covering several square meters of sandstone cliff face, with additional smaller groupings of symbols scattered throughout the immediate area. The carvings appear to have been made using metal tools and show varying degrees of weathering. The symbols carved into the rock face include what appear to be classic Egyptian hieroglyphic characters, including cartouches that some researchers claim contain the names of Egyptian pharaohs and references to ancient Egyptian religious concepts. The text appears to be arranged in columns typical of hieroglyphic writing, with symbols oriented in the proper directions for traditional Egyptian script. What makes the Gosford glyphs particularly controversial is their apparent sophistication and accuracy. The symbols include complex hieroglyphic characters that would require detailed knowledge of Egyptian writing systems to execute correctly. Some characters represent concepts and phonetic values that weren't widely known outside specialist Egyptological circles until relatively recently. Analysis of the carving techniques has revealed that the symbols were created using tools that produced consistent line widths and depths characteristic of metal implements. The precision of the carving and the attention to hieroglyphic conventions suggest that whoever created the symbols possessed considerable knowledge of Egyptian writing systems and artistic traditions. The weathering patterns on the symbols have been subject to intensive study, with researchers attempting to determine the age of the carvings based on natural erosion processes. Some analysts argue that the degree of weathering is consistent with considerable antiquity, while others contend that the symbols show characteristics of relatively recent creation. Translation attempts by Egyptologists have yielded controversial results. Some researchers claim to have identified readable Egyptian text that tells the story of ancient Egyptian explorers who became stranded in Australia and died far from their homeland. The supposed text includes references to specific pharaohs, Egyptian deities, and geographical concepts that would be consistent with ancient Egyptian knowledge. However, mainstream Egyptological opinion has been overwhelmingly skeptical of the translation claims. Many experts argue that the supposed hieroglyphic text contains errors, anachronisms, and inconsistencies that would not appear in genuine ancient Egyptian writing. The grammar and syntax allegedly present in the text have been criticized as reflecting modern misunderstandings of hieroglyphic conventions. The archaeological context of the site has provided little supporting evidence for ancient Egyptian presence in Australia. Despite extensive investigation of the surrounding area, no artifacts, structures, or other evidence of Egyptian visitation has been discovered. The absence of any supporting archaeological evidence has been a major factor in scholarly skepticism about the glyphs' authenticity. Local Aboriginal knowledge of the site has been limited, with no traditional stories or oral histories that reference the symbols or suggest their ancient origin. This absence of indigenous knowledge about the carvings contrasts with other significant rock art sites in the region, which are typically well known in Aboriginal cultural traditions. Mainstream archaeological opinion strongly favors modern creation of the glyphs, arguing that they represent either hoax artifacts or the work of someone with access to modern Egyptological knowledge. The technical accuracy of some symbols combined with apparent errors in others suggests creation by someone with partial but incomplete understanding of hieroglyphic writing. Alternative theories about the glyphs range from evidence of ancient Egyptian exploration to the work of early European settlers with Egyptological interests. Some proponents argue that the symbols represent genuine evidence of transoceanic contact that predates known historical connections between Egypt and Australia by thousands of years. The mystery of the Gosford glyphs persists because they present what appears to be sophisticated Egyptian writing in a location where such symbols should not exist. Whether they represent evidence of ancient contact, modern hoax, or misidentified symbols of different origin, the glyphs continue to generate debate about the possibility of unknown historical connections between ancient civilizations and prehistoric Australia. 5. The White Shaman Rock. Location: Texas, USA. In the rugged canyonlands of southwest Texas, along the Rio Grande near the Mexican border, prehistoric artists created what may be one of North America's most sophisticated examples of shamanic rock art. The White Shaman Rock, a massive cliff face covered with elaborate pictographs dating back over 4,000 years, presents a complex narrative that some researchers interpret as representing advanced astronomical knowledge and sophisticated religious concepts that seem remarkably advanced for their time period. The site was documented by archaeologists in the 1930s, but didn't receive intensive study until recent decades when advanced photographic techniques and comparative analysis revealed the extraordinary complexity of the painted scenes. The main panel extends for over 30 meters along a limestone cliff face and contains hundreds of individual figures arranged in what appears to be a coherent narrative sequence. The pictographs are executed in multiple colors, including red, black, yellow, and white pigments, applied with sophisticated techniques that have allowed many images to survive for millennia in the harsh desert environment. The artistic skill demonstrated in the paintings rivals the finest prehistoric art found anywhere in North America, with detailed human figures, complex geometric patterns, and intricate symbolic arrangements. What makes the White Shaman Rock particularly remarkable is its apparent astronomical content. Detailed analysis has revealed that many elements of the painted scenes correspond to astronomical phenomena, including star patterns, planetary movements, and seasonal cycles. The arrangement of figures appears to encode information about eclipses, solstices, and other celestial events that would require sophisticated observational knowledge. The central figure of the composition is a large anthropomorphic being, interpreted as a shaman or spiritual leader, surrounded by various animals, plants, and geometric symbols that appear to represent different aspects of the natural and supernatural worlds. The complexity of the iconographic program suggests a sophisticated belief system with detailed cosmological concepts. Dating of the pictographs has been established through various methods, including radiocarbon analysis of organic materials in the pigments and stylistic comparison with other dated rock art sites in the region. The results consistently place the creation of the main panels between 4,000 and 3,000 years ago, during the late Archaic period when hunter-gatherer societies in the region were developing increasingly complex cultural systems. The preservation of the site has been remarkable due to the protected location of the cliff face and the quality of the original pigments. However, recent analysis has revealed that some sections of the paintings have been damaged by natural weathering and human interference, making comprehensive documentation increasingly urgent. The cultural context of the White Shaman Rock reflects the sophisticated hunter-gatherer societies that flourished in the Trans-Pecos region during the late Archaic period. These groups developed complex seasonal rounds, elaborate ritual systems, and extensive trade networks that connected them with cultures throughout North and Central America. Mainstream archaeological interpretation views the White Shaman Rock as representing sophisticated shamanic traditions that incorporated detailed astronomical knowledge into religious practices. According to this view, the paintings served as visual aids for ceremonies and encoded information about seasonal cycles, ritual calendars, and spiritual concepts important to the prehistoric communities. However, several aspects of the site challenge conventional understanding of late Archaic capabilities. The astronomical accuracy of the painted scenes suggests observational knowledge that exceeds what is typically attributed to hunter-gatherer societies. The artistic sophistication and iconographic complexity indicate cultural developments that may have been more advanced than previously recognized. Alternative interpretations of the site range from evidence of advanced prehistoric science to connections with sophisticated Mesoamerican civilizations. Some researchers propose that the astronomical knowledge encoded in the paintings represents indigenous scientific traditions that were much more advanced than generally recognized. The mystery of the White Shaman Rock endures because it demonstrates levels of astronomical knowledge and artistic sophistication that challenge assumptions about prehistoric North American capabilities. Whether the site represents advanced indigenous traditions, influence from more complex societies, or something else entirely, it continues to expand our understanding of the intellectual achievements of ancient American peoples. 6. The Sibiu Manuscript. Location: Transylvania, Romania. In the archives of the City Library in Sibiu, Romania, lies a medieval manuscript that appears to contain technical knowledge centuries ahead of its time. The Sibiu manuscript, written sometime in the early 16th century, includes detailed descriptions and illustrations of rocket technology, multi-stage propulsion systems, and other aeronautical concepts that weren't supposed to be developed until the modern era. The manuscript challenges our understanding of medieval European technical knowledge and raises questions about lost traditions of scientific investigation. The manuscript was written by Conrad Haas, a military engineer who served in the court of the Holy Roman Empire during the early 1500s. Haas compiled his work while stationed in various locations across Eastern Europe, drawing on his practical experience with military engineering and artillery, as well as theoretical knowledge that he had acquired through unknown sources. The document consists of 450 pages of text and illustrations covering various aspects of military engineering, with particular focus on artillery, fortification, and what appears to be advanced rocket technology. The technical drawings show remarkable detail and suggest practical familiarity with concepts that wouldn't be redeveloped until centuries later by pioneers of modern rocketry. What makes the Sibiu manuscript extraordinary is its detailed description of multi-stage rocket systems, complete with technical specifications for construction and operation. The text includes discussions of fuel mixtures, staging mechanisms, and guidance systems that demonstrate understanding of principles fundamental to modern rocket design. Some illustrations show rocket-powered aircraft and other aeronautical devices. The level of technical detail in the manuscript suggests that Haas was describing actual working devices rather than theoretical concepts. The precision of measurements, the attention to engineering details, and the practical nature of the instructions indicate hands-on experience with advanced propulsion technology. Some designs include innovations that weren't redeveloped until the 20th century. The historical context of the manuscript places it during a period of rapid technological development in European military engineering. The early 16th century saw major advances in artillery and fortification design, driven by the changing nature of warfare and the availability of improved materials and manufacturing techniques. However, the rocket technology described by Haas seems far beyond what was possible with contemporary knowledge and materials. The sources of Haas's knowledge remain mysterious, as the manuscript includes concepts and technologies that don't appear in any other contemporary European texts. The author doesn't cite sources for his more advanced ideas, suggesting either original invention or access to unknown technical traditions. The sophistication of the concepts implies either remarkable individual genius or knowledge preserved from earlier periods. Analysis of the manuscript's technical content has revealed both feasible and problematic aspects of the described technologies. Some of the simpler rocket designs could potentially have been built using 16th century materials and techniques, while the more advanced concepts would require technologies and materials that weren't available until much later periods. The manuscript includes references to earlier works and traditions that suggest Haas was drawing on older technical knowledge. Some passages reference ancient authorities and classical texts on engineering and natural philosophy, indicating that the rocket technology may have been based on much older foundations of knowledge. Mainstream historical interpretation views the Sibiu manuscript as representing the work of an innovative military engineer who was experimenting with advanced concepts based on contemporary knowledge of artillery and pyrotechnics. According to this view, Haas was extrapolating from known technologies to develop theoretical advanced systems that were beyond the practical capabilities of his time. However, the specific technical details and apparent practical familiarity with advanced concepts challenge purely theoretical explanations. The precision of engineering specifications and the systematic approach to complex technical problems suggest actual experience with working rocket systems rather than purely speculative design work. Alternative theories about the manuscript range from evidence of lost medieval technology to preservation of ancient knowledge from classical antiquity. Some researchers propose that advanced technical traditions existed in medieval Europe, but were lost during periods of social disruption and technological regression. The mystery of the Sibiu manuscript persists because it appears to document technical knowledge that was far ahead of its time, yet provides no clear explanation for how such knowledge was acquired or developed. Whether representing individual genius, lost technical traditions, or something else entirely, the manuscript continues to challenge our understanding of medieval European technological capabilities and the development of aeronautical science. As we reach the end of our journey through 50 of archaeology's most perplexing mysteries, we find ourselves not with answers, but with a profound appreciation for the depth of what we still don't know about our own past. Each discovery we've explored, from the impossible precision of ancient stonework to the enigmatic symbols that refuse to yield their secrets, serves as a reminder that human history is far stranger, more complex, and more remarkable than our textbooks suggest. The monuments, artifacts, remains, and inscriptions we've examined span every continent and stretch across tens of thousands of years of human experience, yet they share common threads that weave together into a tapestry of mystery that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about technological development, cultural exchange, and human capability. The precision that appears impossible with ancient tools, the knowledge that seems centuries ahead of its time, the global distribution of similar techniques and concepts among supposedly isolated civilizations. These patterns force us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of progress itself. We like to think of human development as a steady climb from primitive beginnings to our current technological sophistication, with each generation building upon the achievements of the previous one. But the evidence scattered across archaeological sites worldwide suggests a far more complex story, one of forgotten knowledge, lost civilizations, and capabilities that challenge our understanding of what ancient peoples could achieve. Consider the recurring themes we've encountered throughout our exploration. The mathematical precision evident in structures like Sacsayhuamán and the Kokno stone suggests sophisticated knowledge of geometry and engineering that exceeds what we typically attribute to their creators. The advanced metallurgy of the Ulfberht swords and the apparent aluminum composition of the AIUD wedge indicate technological capabilities that seem centuries out of place. The astronomical knowledge encoded in sites from Archaeum to the White Shaman Rock reveals understanding of celestial mechanics that rivals modern scientific achievement. Perhaps most intriguingly, we've seen evidence of connections and knowledge transfer that challenge conventional models of ancient isolation. The similar construction techniques appearing at sites separated by vast oceans, the appearance of Old World scripts in New World locations, the global distribution of megalithic construction methods that seem to follow consistent principles despite emerging in supposedly unconnected cultures. These discoveries remind us that archaeology is not just about uncovering the past, it's about understanding the full scope of human potential. Each unexplained artifact represents not just a historical puzzle, but a window into capabilities and achievements that we're still trying to comprehend. They suggest that our ancestors possessed knowledge, skills, and understanding that we've underestimated or lost entirely. The resistance of these mysteries to explanation, despite decades or centuries of study, also tells us something important about the nature of knowledge itself. In our age of rapid technological advancement and seemingly unlimited access to information, it's humbling to encounter problems that can't be solved simply by applying more resources or better technology. These ancient puzzles remind us that some forms of knowledge may be fundamentally different from what we can easily categorize and understand. Yet this uncertainty shouldn't discourage us. It should inspire us. Every mystery we've explored represents an opportunity for breakthrough discovery that could revolutionize our understanding of human history. The next excavation might uncover the bilingual text that unlocks the Indus Valley script. Advances in dating technology might definitively resolve controversies about the age of disputed artifacts. New analytical techniques might reveal the secrets of ancient metallurgy or construction methods. The human stories behind these mysteries are equally compelling. Behind every unexplained structure stood teams of skilled craftspeople whose knowledge we can barely comprehend. Behind every undeciphered script lay writers and readers whose thoughts and concerns remain locked away from us. Behind every anomalous artifact was an individual whose capabilities exceeded what we thought possible for their time and place. These discoveries also remind us of the fragility of knowledge and the ease with which human achievements can be forgotten. Many of the techniques and capabilities evident in ancient sites seem to have been lost, their secrets dying with the civilizations that created them. This pattern of loss and rediscovery may be more common in human history than we realize, suggesting that our current technological achievements are far from guaranteed to persist. The political and cultural dimensions of these mysteries add another layer of complexity to their study. Claims about ancient achievements can challenge national narratives, religious beliefs, and academic orthodoxies in ways that make objective investigation difficult. The most controversial discoveries often become lightning rods for broader cultural conflicts, making scientific resolution even more challenging. As we look toward the future, new technologies promise to shed light on some of these ancient puzzles, while undoubtedly revealing new mysteries we haven't yet imagined. Satellite archaeology is uncovering hidden structures across the globe. Advanced DNA analysis is rewriting the story of human migration and interaction. Improved dating techniques are challenging established chronologies and forcing reassessment of when various achievements occurred. But perhaps the most important lesson from our exploration of these 50 mysteries is the need for intellectual humility. The confidence with which we once proclaimed that we understood the broad outlines of human history has been repeatedly challenged by new discoveries that don't fit established frameworks. Each unexplained artifact reminds us that the past was far more complex than we assumed, and that future discoveries may require us to revise our understanding even more dramatically. The mysteries we've explored also highlight the importance of preserving archaeological sites and artifacts for future study. Many of the most controversial discoveries suffer from inadequate documentation, lost specimens, or restricted access that prevents thorough investigation. As development pressure and climate change threaten archaeological sites worldwide, the urgency of proper investigation and preservation becomes ever more critical. Perhaps most remarkably, our journey through these 50 mysteries suggests that we may be on the verge of revolutionary discoveries that could transform our understanding of human history. The convergence of new technologies, expanding global archaeological investigation, and increasing recognition of the complexity of ancient achievements creates conditions ripe for breakthrough discoveries that could resolve long-standing puzzles while opening entirely new areas of investigation. The story of human achievement is far from complete. Each mystery we've explored represents not just an unanswered question about the past, but a promise that the future may hold revelations that surpass anything we can currently imagine. As we continue to probe the depths of our collective history, we may find that the greatest mysteries of human achievement lie not behind us but ahead of us, waiting to be discovered by future generations who will look back at our current understanding with the same mixture of admiration and bewilderment that we feel when contemplating the impossible achievements of our ancestors. In the end, these 50 archaeological mysteries remind us that the human story is far more extraordinary than we ever dared to believe, and that we've only just begun to uncover its secrets.